OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Alright, back on 7:30. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. Shane is here. Shane, how are you?
Morning, folks. How are things?
Also with us we have Colin Bowie. Colin, how are you?
Ger Shane, good morning. How are you? Merry Christmas.
Excited about the return of domestic football last night, Colin?
You're really excited. It was great to have domestic game back after the international break.
Have you learned the lesson of your ways now that the internet?
No, I enjoy language, just using words. And domestic club is a way to describe our great league, and it was back there last night in League Cup form, so that was great. How come you're not wearing Christmas jumper today? You peaked too soon yesterday.
It's red for Santa.
Oh yeah.
You know what?
I thought you were going to wear your Kaepernick top all week long. I love that top.
It'd get a bit sticky.
It's 2 days of 365 days.
He's got the grey beard and the red top.
That's I've seen you
salt
wear
and
that.
pepper, Shane. And also
I thought you'd wear it again today.
no, it's like a bit figure hugging these days. It used to fit me, but then shit happened, and now it fits me less so.
Where'd you get that?
After a period of time, what?
Where did you get that?
On the internet.
Oh,
I tracked it down. It was hard to find.
yeah.
And I remember some guy was like, "Oh, I'll buy that off you." I was like, "Oh yeah, grand, yeah."
The hoodie.
I literally I searched for months and months and months and months to find it, and they don't make them anymore. It's like, yeah, no problems. I find it, do all the hard work, and I'll just sell it to you. Yeah.
Colin's dressed very snazzy this morning. You look like a dress for Sunday school.
Yeah.
It's like a Christmas Day mass attire, maybe.
Yeah. I genuinely was like, "Would I wear this today?"
Yeah, it looks well. Yeah.
I put it out before I went to bed, like, you know.
Laid it out.
I have to get ready in the spare room. So we're up too early, like.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
So I have to not disrupt the other person, you know. So I have to go over, just throw it out there, you know.
That's very
Slightly
good.
festive. And you went for Monaghan.
How is it festive?
Yeah.
Do you want to stand
kind
up
of
there
a
and give us a twirl,
comforting-
Colin? Go on.
No.
Come on, you're dying to.
I know, I actually don't. But what I just realised I left my coffee inside the production box.
That's always the worst, isn't it?
And I need that.
Yeah. You can't concentrate until.
I can't. I need a hit of caffeine. So
bad,
that's
isn't it?
kind of that's what's on my mind mostly at the moment. But you went for Monaghan for
Please bring
Christmas.
the coffee in there is what he's doing there.
Yeah.
He's producing from on the show.
It's been it's a Monaghan shirt. It's been described as Narcos.
It's not a Monaghan shirt though.
No, it's not a Monaghan shirt. It's,
You just said it wasn't. Then he said it wasn't.
I can see how you
You should defend your honour, like.
It's white and blue. I suppose that's the only link. But narcotics kind of Narcos
All right,
vibes off it.
Where were you last night?
I was in a new pub in Smithfield. Opening night. Fidelity is the name of the pub.
All right, okay.
Whisper it, Fidelity. Though it was very hipster. There was a parrot.
Oh, you were at I was getting pictures. Some of my mates were there.
There you go. Yeah,
It's a high-end crowd you're hanging out with.
High-end crowd, Ger, let me tell you.
Now I'm impressed, Shane.
Felt like I was in the French ambassador's residence. It was brilliant, lovely little pub, and it's now officially the closest pub to our house in Smithfield. So it will become a local, no doubt. But yeah, it felt very exclusive.
Hipster heaven.
Dogs, a lot of beards, a lot of like hats being worn inside.
I mean, this is all you're describing. You were wearing a hat inside last night, I bet you, and you have a beard.
I have a beard. Yeah. I'm actually going to get the beard trimmed today, thankfully for Christmas. But no, I wasn't wearing a hat inside. I didn't stretch it that far. But
You say you're getting your beard trimmed. Do you do that professionally or yourself?
well, I it's got to the point now where I can't control it, so I'm going to have to go to a professional.
What?
I'm going to get in the hair chop for Christmas anyway, so I'll just say I'll do the beard as well.
What's the plan overall? Just the general trim?
Short back inside, or like a half fade in the back.
And what are you
inside.
going to do with the beard? Just trim it back a little?
Just clean it up there, please. Yeah.
You know, you'd have a fantastic goatee.
Would I know?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, you would, yeah.
No one has a fantastic goatee.
I think Shane would, because
No one has a
you're quite
fantastic
quite
goatee.
thick
No,
in the
Joe's
right
really-
area. Quite thick here.
Yeah.
Quite thick here.
You're calling me thick.
Thick. Yeah.
Thanks.
Rafa Varane's thick arse yesterday, and today it's his thick beard.
Yeah. Maybe
Right. We have a show to talk about. I mean, I had some other things that I wanted to bring up there, but anyway,
Go ahead,
it's
yeah.
Christmas.
It's Christmas. You can say what you like.
Yeah. It's 7:35. If anybody wants to get in touch with us. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. There's actually loads and loads of sport happening today. Jack McCaffrey is back. UEFA are telling us that we might not be getting the UEFA Euro 2028 bid. The Spurs stadium is the problem, but also Casement Park. They're not buying what we're selling when it comes to Casement Park. UEFA, there are different problems involving Casement Park in Belfast, which is one of the 14 stadiums listed in the bid and the only one in Northern Ireland. It requires, this is on the back page of the London Times, it requires substantial redevelopment. No shit, Martin. We should take you, Martin, to show you just how much redevelopment Casement Park needs. Substantial redevelopment, which is due to start next year, but UEFA still remains to be convinced about the final plan for the venue and if that includes temporary stands for the tournament, which could be a big issue. So presumably there are terraces. I haven't seen the final agreed final version, not the one that got past the residents. Is there a terrace? I don't know. Is that going to be a problem? I mean,
if that
could you go all-seater?
Yeah.
Are we in the days now where an all-seater kind of...
You'd hope that wouldn't derail the bid, wouldn't you?
Well, sorry, it won't matter ultimately, because the 14 stadiums on the list will be whittled down to 10 for the 2014 tournament.
Yeah.
So there's spare. Spurs being Spurs are unhappy. Obviously the Aviva won't be called the Aviva, and the Etihad won't be called the Etihad. It'll be the City of Manchester Stadium, and it'll be the Dublin City Stadium. Is that what it's called?
Dublin City Stadium. Can we not just call it Lansdowne Road for old time's sake? Is that like too parochial for a tournament?
Dublin Stadium. So we're going to try and find out a bit more about what UEFA's problem with casement is. Why are they unconvinced about? Are they aware of the tangled history of the ground? Have they seen the drone footage of the thistles growing?
The grass, yeah, maybe. But 2028, we have a bit of time to finish. I mean, it should be ready by then, surely. But I guess they need it for the bid.
Well, and also, like, a big impetus for funding would be the bids and pressure on time to deliver, and
yeah, it gives them a target, a deadline.
Yeah. And the British government can pay for all of it. I mean, why not?
Happy days, let them at it.
Here's what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock this morning. As I said, a very busy programme for you. Daniel Harris is going to join us at 8 o'clock to talk some Manchester United. Casemiro at centre back. Marcus Rashford looking like Marcus Rashford of old last night. Jack Nicholls is going to join us at 8:20 to talk about the Formula 1 season. Oh, can we go back one? Sorry. We have papers, sorry. Fergal Boland is going to talk to us about hurling and football, and Ailis McSweeney is going to talk to us about sanctuary runners who are attempting to run to the North Pole and back between now and Christmas. So time is tight, but it's all for a very good cause. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on.
Have you seen the photos of, everyone's seen the photos of Jack McCaffrey on the pitch for the first time in 2 years in Sky Blue? There he is last night, playing for Dublin North in the rescheduled Dave Hickey Cup final against Dublin South at the DCU Sports Campus. There, a thumbs up. There he is in action. It's a terrifying sight for everyone across the country, of course.
They were all, of course, at James McCarthy's wedding during the
Look
week.
at him.
All over the papers. He looks in good form.
He does. He looks like, you can just imagine the tracking he's doing there, the speed he's building up. So yeah, he hasn't played since that National League game against Tyrone in 2020, which is mad. But yeah, concerning sight for all other counties. I think last night when you see him finally,
He can't still be the same, can he? He can't. You can't take 3 years off and be the same player.
could be better.
He couldn't. He couldn't be better. You can't get better not doing the thing that you're good at.
We don't know what he's been doing.
We do. He's been like working 70 hours a week and like sleeping in hospitals to try and save the sick children of the country. We don't treat our don't treat our young doctors very well, right? We really don't. We put them under severe stress. We string them out and then we complain about them. And so I suspect that's not the best way to get good at football. And I'm not saying that he's not going to be as good again, but there's no way he can be the same again, is there?
He could be.
Well, I should stop talking about this because they're playing Kildare in the first round of the league and they'll be like, oh yeah, and then he scores like 3-3.
They're targeting that game apparently.
Where did you hear that?
Heard that. The whispers in the board's head.
What?
Those whispers going around that the Dubs are massively targeting the first league game against Kildare, and for Kildare to expect a bit of a backlash. Now,
A backlash to the last time they beat Kildare really well.
Yeah.
What are they lashing back against? Well, last year in the league, in fairness.
Yeah, and all the narrative since the Kerry defeat, I think everyone has ruled them out. No, not really. But I think since McCaffrey and Mannion came back into the fold, everyone's...
Well, we need to do power rankings and put them straight in at least at second or joint first because of McCaffrey and Mannion. And Pat Gilroy.
They're second, are they? They can't be first.
Well, what was the difference between them and Kerry last year?
Kick of a ball.
If the post had just come the other way.
They're stopping that, aren't they?
They changed the rules, yeah.
Yeah, you can't sway the post, which makes a little bit of sense. You're literally moving the goalposts.
I mean, it seemed like a slight oversight that you were allowed to do this in the first place. And in fairness, when a loophole gets discovered, you should close it as fast as possible. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Which is fair. No, I think the Dubs they're close. But I think that Division 2 campaign is going to help them massively. Under the radar a little bit. It'll be a fairly high profile.
But how under the radar is going to be if they're targeting this game and they announce with themselves? Is the game going to be on telly? Has that been announced yet?
I don't know if the TV details have been announced. Not many Division 2 games get. Of course, you'll have the.
Isn't it mad how like we know what the championship games are next year, but we don't know what the first round of televised fixtures is going to be, or who the commentary teams are going to be. Like I mean, this is. We all want to see this. We all have like a level of excitement about this.
Is this in Kildare or is it Croker?
It's Croker. Yeah. So okay, so you're saying that the Dubs are telling everybody they're going to humiliate Kildare in the opening round of the league. Shane's heard this.
That's what I'm hearing.
All right, well, we're clipping this, right? And we're tagging at Kildare GAA and going, this is what the Dubs are saying about you.
Fancy dance in Kildare.
If Shane's hearing it, right, you can just imagine the blabbing that's going around.
Yeah, 100%. This is pub talk, but sometimes pub talk has legs, you know. It can have some element of truth, some modicum of truth.
Reveal. I mean, look, I wasn't around when you were in journalism school, but maybe things have changed. I'm not sure you're supposed to reveal the origin of your sources.
No, I'm not revealing who said it to me. I'm just revealing where they said it to me.
Well, I mean, it's kind of similar. People piece this jigsaw together, and they're like, oh, and then they'll be trolling back over your Instagram to find out who's the blabbermouth that told Shane that the Dubs are trying to get Kildare.
Yeah, I'm just trying to wind up Kildare.
They're walking into a buzzsaw.
Yeah. Well, I think Kildare and Dublin would be the two favourites to get promoted anyway, together from Division 2, albeit a tough division.
Derry.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry. Derry, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about Derry.
I need to check the odds to see exactly what the...
I'd imagine, sorry, you're probably right. Derry are up there, yeah.
All right, are we playing the clip now, or are we going to play the clip of Ten Hag later, or was that just you? We don't have that clip.
Oh, it was on the phone, yeah. So Ten Hag being asked last night about... I knew you'd bring this up. Jadon Sancho. So
what do you mean you knew I'd bring it up? It's really important.
It's important, right.
It's an £80 million player that they've completely wasted.
For anyone who hasn't heard this, last night Eric Ten Hag is asked after the match about Jadon Sancho,
right.
And he's like, who is
Jadon Sancho again? Remind me.
He's a Manchester United and England midfielder.
Does he play for England?
Played at the Euros a couple of years ago. Missed a penalty famously in the final against Italy in the shootout. So Ten Hag was asked about him after the match, and basically goes, so what's the story with Jadon Sancho? Of course, he's been training away from the group in is it in Spain or the Netherlands he was over with, but anyway, he's been training by himself to get the fitness back. Ten Hag was asked about him, and Ten Hag just said, any update? No. Do you want to elaborate or tell us? No. It sounded very, very terse from Eric Ten Hag. Maybe that's just his way, but it sounded like there was something there a little bit deeper with Jadon Sancho, and maybe it's not all just relative lack of fitness. Go on, Ger.
Oh, I wouldn't take a victory lap. Oh no,
it would be unlike you. Take a victory lap. To take a victory lap. Now, this is what I would think.
Is it the coffee or is it
when
your own words?
When we were talking about Jadon Sancho at the time, that was after the Liverpool game. You recall? When he
For anyone who can't remember, Ger called Jadon Sancho a bust.
Lovely goal.
That's why that's why he's being so smug in the middle there.
Yeah, and it was a lovely, lovely finish. And you might have said afterwards, Sancho, he's been a bust. And I said, no, he hasn't. He's the least of United's worries, because at the time, Manchester United were in crisis. Do you remember that victory came after the Brentford and Brighton humiliations?
I do.
That was the third game of the season. First
okay.
win. Sancho, lovely finish. And you called out Sancho. And at the time, there were a number of players ahead of him. So I was saying, he's not a bust really in the grand scheme of things. He's the least of our worries. What subsequently emerged in the few months since is that Ten Hag has vastly improved the vast majority of the Manchester United squad, and Sancho actually has been left behind. That's what's happened since then. But at the time of our debate,
so
I stand
Sancho
by.
Is now a bust.
No, I wouldn't say that. He's not gone forever, but he's massively deteriorated. Yeah, to a worrying degree. But there must be something going on way beyond his ability and way beyond any sort of.
So you've caught up with the rest of the world on this now. That's okay.
Confidence issue, because I think it's. It must be a mentality problem, because Ten Hag was so curt in his response when he was speaking with Sky Sports afterwards last night. No, it wasn't like, he's working away, he's training hard, we'll get him back soon. It was a very curt no.
No, it was tough love, right?
3 seconds. Yeah, so there must be something, because I thought, by all accounts, Sancho is a quiet enough guy. When you get to know him, he kind of opens up a bit, but he can be a bit reticent at the start to new company. So I thought, okay, maybe he lacks confidence.
I mean,
but now it seems to be no. It's not that. His application is the problem.
Okay,
that seems to be the case.
That personality assessment that you've just given me, who put that out there? Where did I'm reluctant to Like, but is this not all that's wrong with the world? Is that like you have this personal view of what his character is like based on some kind of...
I read about it in The Athletic in the long piece about Jadon Sancho.
I mean, it stinks of an Athletic piece where it's like, here's a tiny piece of information that I have that I'm going to extrapolate into a full personality test, and then I'm going to use this as the basis for me to explain and rationalise everything that comes afterwards until he leaves the club, which one he'll be like, oh, retrospectively, this was always doomed to failure because of these things. Like, a lot of the stuff that you're reading in The Athletic is like, I mean, made up. It feels like it just feels like they're absolutely taking one tiny piece of data and deciding that on the back of that, and it's kind of like when companies do those psychometric analysis, or when you do them for like in school, like your teacher comes down and goes, oh, you're going to be an engineer because you did this test really well. It's like a lot more goes into this than that, you know. I just feel like. We don't know what the hell his character is like.
No,
but because he went from having real trouble at Man City, like not liking them, falling out of it with Pep, to Dortmund, where he was absolutely stunning in a culture where they speak a different language. And you're telling me he couldn't come back to Manchester United and that he's too shy and a bit too reticent to get on with whoever was there previously. I don't buy it.
Or everything that was written in The Athletic is true. Let's say that could be one possibility, right? And that
why was he a success at Dortmund?
He strives in confidence, so he hit the ground running. He was away from the limelight. People were letting him develop. There was no expectation of him. He was a young fella going abroad. Fair play to him. He took a chance. Didn't work out in Manchester City. We'll try in Germany. And he hit the ground running. He was left alone to develop his game. And his stats were incredible. So no wonder Manchester United wanted him. No wonder an array of clubs wanted him. Then he comes to United the same summer as Cristiano Ronaldo. He's left in the shadow a bit there immediately, even though he cost 80 million. He comes on Ronaldo's second debut. He came on. It was like an afterthought. Oh, and Sancho was coming on. Oh yeah, I forgot about him. So he doesn't do much at the start because he's probably, oh God, I'm surrounded by massive egos here, and now I'm one of many stars, and now the limelight's suddenly on me as well, and I have to deliver.
Sorry, I thought he was out of the limelight. I thought is it because he's in the limelight or he's out of the limelight? Which is the problem here?
Well, he was signed for 80 million, and then he has to share.
He is in the limelight,
well, hold on now. He has to share the stage with a load of other stars, but also he cost 80 million.
Erling Haaland.
That's the worst. That's the worst of both worlds.
He played with Erling Haaland at Dortmund.
Yeah, but no one was talking about him in that sense. He was assisting Haaland. I think he had a brilliant stage.
He was a called celeb at a major tournament from the English media because he wasn't playing.
Euro 2020, and then they did play him, and he wasn't that great.
And the thing is, it turns out he's not that great.
But hold on,
I think he is a very good player.
You can't take a victory lap on him yet, because a year ago we would have said Marcus Rashford is a bust. We'd all have said, yeah, well done, he's a bust, he's brutal. And now all of a sudden he's one of England's best players at the World Cup. He's come back into the United team. He scores. He runs half the pitch last night to score.
Again, he's one of England's best players at the World Cup. Did he play every game? Did he start matches?
He should have.
But he didn't. Shane, you can't say he's one of the best players.
And he was still their top scorer.
But you're talking about as if we're saying he's the best player for club and country. Like he never has been. Like
Jadon Sancho. We're back to Jadon Sancho.
Back to Sancho. Yeah.
It's not finished for him. There's time for Sancho yet because he's young.
Maybe there's time. Maybe there is time. But what I'm saying is that you're justifying everything on the basis of one tiny piece of information from an Athletic piece, and frankly, that's not useful. The evidence is what's useful. Is the manager picking him? No. Is he even training with the squad at the moment? We don't know.
No, he's not.
The truth is not the hype that's put out from people who are willing to talk about the players. The truth is the performances on the pitch. And I would argue that we spend too much time on these tiny things which actually... Because when his career ends at Manchester United, which it looks like it will do at some point, probably sooner rather than later, then the story will come out, well, he just didn't have the character to deal with the pressure. I'm like, but I thought that was the reason why. It's just like, this doesn't make any sense. What does the football say? What does the data say? What do the performances say? The performances say, this is not going to work at the moment.
But you were unsure of his character. You don't know anything about his character, so all you care about is the evidence in front of you, right? So I'm adding that to the argument, is that I read about what he's like behind the scenes. So I'm adding that to your information,
but I think that's inconsistent.
So I'm coming together with
somebody who goes as a child.
That's why he plays
Germany
like that,
and succeeds in one of the best leagues in the world.
Because they're leaving him develop, and he has an arm around the shoulder, and he hits the ground running because he has a load of ability. And oh my God, I'm actually playing really well here, but like no one's really looking at me, so I'm going to keep him developing. Then United sign him for massive money, and it's like, oh yeah, this guy that's been brilliant in Germany, now do it back at home. And he didn't start well because he was sick at the start. Remember, he was ill at the start, so he was only playing bit parts. And then Ronaldo had a flying start, so there was no kind of room for him to really flourish in any capacity. And then he only saw glimpses like Chelsea away last season and Liverpool this year. But it's only been a handful of glimpses. Like, he really hasn't done an awful lot. But if you remember, the original argument that we had wasn't me saying, Jesus, Jadon Sancho's been a massive success, hasn't he? You said he's a bust, and I said he was the least of United's worries at that time, which was true in September. What's happened since then is that a lot of United players have developed, and Sancho hasn't. So now he's standing out a mile. The complete opposite to September.
Maybe he takes the English media hype on board too much. This is why we said Jude Bellingham will be better off yesterday going to Real Madrid perhaps than an English club, because the focus on Sancho since he arrived has been unbelievable. And for some players that's tougher to deal with than others. Clearly he's one of these players who struggles to cope under the weight of the English hype.
You hear very little from Sancho. I've only had a handful of interviews since.
Why do you need to hear from him? My point.
What I mean? Because the pressure's on him. People are talking about him, but he doesn't actually give very much away of his character at all. Therefore, that kind of actually in many ways helped him for a long time, but now it hinders him because Ten Hag is saying, well, what kind of character do you have at all? Because
you don't know what Ten Hag is saying. You don't know. He didn't have a massive fight in training. He could be. He could be completely temperamental. We don't know. Is a thing. But I think that I just
the reason we're talking about it this morning is because of Ten Hag's correct response. If Ten Hag had said, oh yeah, Jadon's working away in the background, he's going to be back in a few weeks, this wouldn't even be a discussion. We wouldn't even be talking about it.
They made a point of telling us that he was being sent away from the main group for fear of somehow inflicting whatever it is that's wrong with him on the rest of the group. They made a very ostentatious, this guy's out of here at the moment and he ain't coming back until something changes.
So hear me out here. Why he said no twice without any elaboration. So therefore, right, if it was purely down to ability alone, he would say, no, but look, we're trying to develop his skills, but obviously there's something more happening. So therefore, obviously we're going to talk about his character, because we're wondering, how has he got to this part? How has he got to this phase now? We thought Cristiano Ronaldo was the big problem. And now it's moved over to Jadon Sancho.
No, I mean, I think that there are many problems. I don't think there was... the characterisation of Ronaldo being the problem is wrong. There were many problems, and I still think Harry Maguire's a problem. I can't wait to see you guys defending Harry Maguire next week. This is my next 3 months as you two on board the Harry Maguire train, going, no, he's coming back to the form that justified us paying 80 million for him in the first place. I look at the two.
But that sounds like you've made up.
Uncomfortable.
But no, you're coming from a position of just making up your mind about people, and then that's it. And you're inflexible to change.
About the quality of performance. No, if new information comes to light, you change your mind.
Exactly. New information came to light, which is exactly why we're talking about Sancho again.
So you're saying he's a bust now?
No, I told you that already. I never said he was a bust in the first place. I never said he was brilliant in the first place.
A bust was going 0 to 100. You went to 100 too quickly, I think.
Exactly.
You can go to 60 or 70 and say he's heading towards that direction. But
the issue I had with you at that time was you calling him out, because that didn't warrant it at the time at all.
It did. It
did not at all. You're forgetting what it was like at the time.
Oh, how good was he last season?
Not that great.
Okay.
He had sprinkle of moments, but at the time in September, that was probably the 4 weeks that he played well, and you called him out then being like, oh, he's a bust.
He didn't play that well.
He played well.
Right.
That's what happened then.
All right. He didn't.
He played well. Are you going to change your mind on Harry Maguire if he plays half a dozen good games in a row?
Half a dozen? I need to see Harry Maguire put his season together before I go, Harry Maguire, competent centre-back at Champions League title contending level. Because that's what we're talking about, Man United. That's what we're talking about, lads. You seem to have forgotten that the standards aren't, he's good enough to play for Leicester.
This is Manchester United.
Team.
This is Manchester United.
It's supposed to be. It is supposed to be. I think Ten Hag knows that, because it was interesting last night. Who played centre back?
Casemiro
played centre back. What's going on?
Maguire was sick. Harry Maguire was sick.
Was he sick?
He was sick.
Right.
Yeah. Sick of your.
Hey.
Now I hope Daniel Harris is listening.
That was interesting, though, that Casemiro played centre back, and I do wonder if that might extend his career a little bit. But there were I didn't see the whole game. I flicked on just after Rashford scored. They were literally tipping off, but for the next 10 minutes, Manchester United laid siege, and then within the space of 1 minute, Burnley had two great chances. Yeah. Two really, really great chances.
This is a Burnley team top of the championship that are flying. They are in serious form under Vincent Kompany. So I think coming out of there with a win was a positive. It's a cup game, lads. Into the Carabao Cup quarter-finals. I think Ten Hag needs a trophy, and the United players need a trophy. Now it's going to be a bit of a fall from grace for Lisandro Martinez winning the World Cup and then playing for a Carabao Cup, but that's where United are at the moment. They're a trophy team. Maybe if they can nab top 4 this season, they take it, but I think trophies are fairly important for this United squad at the minute. And yeah, Casemiro centre half. Scott McTominay can play there as well if needed. So there's a bit of cover. And obviously Varane isn't back from the World Cup just yet, so nor is Martinez. So centre
Varane
half
looks
was
completely dead at the end of that game.
Oh.
He ran himself into the corner,
falling
fell
over
off the pitch.
I mean,
It looked like he was crying and then stopped crying. And it's like, has he just done a bad injury there, like in the very last second of the game?
looked like fatigue, didn't it?
It was cramp, was it? Because he just seized up.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Some sample, a sprinkling of all of the comments.
Right.
Dortmund took Man United to the cleaners with Sancho, says Rommel. Guy's a dud. Sancho will end up at Forest, says JP Wright. He also says, Shane, you've been targeted by Glenn Ryan and Eric Donovan for making up Kildare rumours. I don't think so.
I'm actually, this is a good thing
This
for
is
Kildare.
coming from the Dublin camp.
I'm giving Kildare ammo and motivation here. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't want
£70
the
million
Dubs to win.
flop, says Mark C. Oh, great. Man United TV is back, says Noel Cal. Only for 20 minutes this morning, Noel, I promise. It's Christmas.
They were playing last night, I suppose.
Shay Geelong,
Geelong, yeah.
Geelong is the, I can't remember. Yeah.
Geelong is the Cats, yeah.
Ger is right. I mean, these are my Christmas gifts. Sancho is useless. Rashford's also a con man, he says, which I've changed my mind on Rashford. Mark C says Rashford needs to be sold. I mean, you would definitely get a good price from him right now. And then Rommel says, can't believe I'm actually agreeing with Gilroy here. It's not supposed to be this way. Rommel, think we can all lay down our arms at Christmas and agree Jadon Sancho is a bust.
Well, hold on. But is Rommel, etc., are they agreeing with you for back in September or now? Now it's an easy argument.
Stephen says...
But I was like, so your point seems to be I was correct early. That's what seems to be your
No, you were incorrect at the time.
Okay.
You're right at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't say he's a bust yet. Not yet.
He wasn't a bust at the period you were calling him a bust.
Yeah, at the time it was an outrageous statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time it was.
Which has subsequently proven to be 100% factually correct.
You got lucky. You stumbled into a correct opinion.
Okay. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Stephen says, Ger, can we have a poll on this? The two lads are talking nonsense, pure United bias.
I mean, sorry, we couldn't do a second poll about Column 2 days in a row because HR would intervene they would be
but
like...
I think at the time...
But we let him
it
back.
was incorrect.
We were not like Elon Musk. We did not follow through on our Twitter poll. We actually let Colin back.
Is Elon leaving?
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
He's going to Mars, hopefully one-way ticket.
JP Wright there made a good point that if Ten Hag doesn't like you, it does seem to be the end of the road for you.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, sometimes the manager has favourites and has people he doesn't like. And
so all joking aside, what do you want to happen here
with Sancho?
Yeah,
he has to come back into the team. Like, the fact that he's not in the squad during the busy festive period tells you all you need to know.
Right. So he doesn't.
He's not fit. He's not fit. So maybe if he gets the fitness
how
back,
could he not be fit? What's he been doing?
I wonder. This is a serious argument. I wonder, has the missed penalty in the Euros?
Well, somebody's in the comments saying that.
It could have massively affected him.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but like, if that's the case, then you probably aren't cut out for Manchester United.
No.
So, what do you want to happen?
I mean, from a United fans' perspective, you'd love him to be the Jadon Sancho that he should be and get back into the team and play really well. But if this continues for the next month or two, he's gone. He is gone. He'll be gone by next summer.
There's enough quality there you'd love. The reason, like, a lot of people defend him, like myself, is because you see enough in him that, like, he's brilliant when he wants to be, but, like, we just see it so rarely.
That's
the other thing as well, I can't think of a way he's going to turn it around now because it's been how long has it been? A year and a half nearly?
I think the only thing you can do is send him out on loan,
so
right?
But then again, Gareth Bale had the unfortunate nickname Gareth Fail for a long time with Spurs because every time he was in the team they lost, and he had an incredible turnaround. So, like, that's the only example I could think of where an attacking player really genuinely turned around his fortunes to become the best player in the team. So he'd have to equal that, wouldn't he? He'd have to do a Bale in it.
People, Martin in the comments, I see Shane and Colin can't criticise United again, bit like Ollie, defend. That's a load of crap.
I think we criticise United all the time.
100%, because absolute load of crap. Completely ready to criticise United when they need to. We're journalists with integrity, I think. Do you know? So,
no, yeah, exactly. I would definitely
Gareth
criticise him.
Bale was 17 when he moved to Spurs.
It's the only correlation I can think of.
But it's not a correlation.
And even he was a left back as well, like, and he eventually became an attacking player. But I honestly can't think of is there any player out there, any attacking player who had a terrible start to his time at the club, largely, and then ended up being brilliant at that club?
Well, like Thierry Henry didn't score for 11
Yeah,
games.
Bergkamp didn't score for 8. Yeah,
18 months.
but I think they were still contributing positively. Like Bale was kept out of the team on purpose. So there's Harry Redknapp many anecdotes of bringing Bale on when they were 3-0 up with a minute to go, so he could finally have a win to his name and a stat. It's on a direct comparison, of course, because he was a defender to start off and he was way younger and had a lower profile than Sancho. But I can't think of any, so I feel
send him out on loan.
It's such a disappointment. On loan if he comes back, I don't know. Who comes back from a loan spell and does really well at the club as well? Just feels like it's a totally missed opportunity, and it's a shame with Sancho at United.
Well, I think you're sending out on loan to get some value back. You're hoping that he goes and has a good time for Leipzig or somebody, and somebody will pay 40 million for him, and that's that experiment. The alternative is to keep him on the bench, let him play in the cup games.
You have to compare Sancho to who's already there.
Spend all that money.
Does he get ahead of Alejandro Garnacho in the United team at the minute? No. Does he get ahead of... Facundo Pellistri was playing for Uruguay at the World Cup, and now he's back in the United squad. He doesn't get ahead of him either. So he's way, way, way down the pecking order. And then there's Anthony, of course, as well, who came off the bench last night. I think when you look at the United squad at the minute, Sancho he doesn't come in within an arse's roar of it, especially if he's not fit. So it's a problem. I think the next month or two will tell all whether his career lies at Old Trafford or elsewhere.
Very briefly, right? ESPN yesterday reporting that Premier League referees made 6 incorrect VAR interventions in the first part of the season. That's quite a lot, right? Including in one big game, Arsenal against Manchester United.
Martinelli?
Yeah. That might have been a very different game. It might have been a very different season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Do they have to reveal this? Do we have to hear all the mistakes?
I think you do. I think you have to. We made these mistakes. I think that's one way for you to get credibility, right?
But why can't...
So everybody might remember this. I'm just trying to... So Odegaard fouls Christian Eriksen about an hour before the goal, right?
Yeah.
And then Martinelli scores. And is it very quickly after that did Man United score? United go on to win the game 3-1 anyway, right? But
I thought it was a foul at the time. He was fouled, Eriksen. I remember the foul.
Yeah. I remember it now.
Is this not the point of VAR, that these errors are stamped out? What is the point of it if there's still going to be errors? I mean, I know. Look, it's...
Well, you got to get fewer and fewer, right?
Yeah, fair.
Anyway, so
A couple of good comments there from John Claffey and Michael Hill.
Defending you?
No.
Go on, read them out.
Ger is anti-United and can't hide it.
I'm really not. I hate everybody equally.
And here's one as well.
I just love football.
This is from Michael Hill. What about Kane, the big game non-entity and bottle merchant?
Well, we're not talking about Harry Kane right now.
Well, that's one Michael had, is the same comment.
I know, but what about everything?
Bottle merchant.
John Claffey. In fairness to Sancho, he couldn't have come to United in a worst possible season. 3 different managers and worst finish in Premier League history.
Do you know... Okay, Daniel Harris is with us. Daniel, good morning to you. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Season's greetings. Happy Hanukkah.
Oh, thank you. Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
I don't know anything about Hanukkah, really. Do you light candles? Are you at day 4?
Yeah, we do. We like going up from day 1 to day 8 in ascending order.
And is it good fun? Is the food good?
The food, so the custom is to eat oily foods. So that mainly the most famous food that we eat on Hanukkah is donuts, and obviously donuts are always good. And there's another thing called a latke, which we also eat, which is kind of shredded potato and onion, then fried. The nearest thing that is not specifically Jewish to it is basically a roshdi, and it's kind of that. It's nice, and as a kid you get presents, and it gives you something to have going on when other people have loads of stuff going on. So yeah, I mean, most of the festivals are kind of nice and fill some kind of part of you with some level of nice identity vibes.
Speaking of identity vibes, I'm surrounded by Manchester United fans at the moment, and you're also very welcome to the programme this morning. And we've been talking about Jadon Sancho. We got sidetracked. It's a bit of a tangent because actually the performance last night is definitely worth talking about. But this is off the back of 2 questions that Ten Hag was asked about Sancho, where he gave very brusque answers.
No.
Exactly.
I quite enjoyed that. I mean, I think none of us really know what's going on with Jadon Sancho. So personally, like, I think that it feels kind of wrong to start drawing conclusions about who he is and what kind of footballer he is. I don't think that we can. Ten Hag basically said that before Christmas that he does have some level of unhappiness going on. We don't know what it is and we don't know why it is, but I don't feel particularly motivated to interrogate it to within an inch of its life, because for whatever reason it is, he's not happy. And schlepping details out of someone to why that is doesn't feel particularly helpful to anyone. He's got a lot of talent. He's not fulfilling that talent. We don't know exactly why it is, but maybe we will. And it seems like he's getting some help from trying to work stuff out from the club. And he's got a boss who's quite benevolent in that aspect and isn't going to chat about him to everyone.
Okay, so you interpret that as benevolence, because the alternative interpretation is that this is tough love, where he's being kept away from the rest of the club and actually prepared for some kind of exit to whoever will take him on. It sounds from what you're saying that actually something else is happening here.
I don't know. It may be that too, but Ten Hag said before Christmas that he wasn't generally happy and his productivity had decreased, and they were trying to work out why that was, and part of it was physical and mental or whatever. So I think that to be very specific about what we think it is, we haven't been offered enough information to do that. We do know that he seems like a pleasant bloke, and we do know that he's got a lot of talent. So trying to extrapolate the precise aspect of what's going on with him, we haven't been given any real information to do that. And maybe you're right, maybe it's tough love and the club's saying sort yourself out really quickly or you've got a problem. And he does definitely have a problem in that Marcus Rashford has rediscovered himself, and Alejandro Garnacho is good, and you've also got Anthony, so they're real competition for places. Even if he's at the top of his game, he isn't. But the desire to be really specific about what's bothering him doesn't seem to me like we have a great deal of anything to base whatever decision we might make on. So I'm loath to make any kind of decision, but I can totally understand that he's not playing in the way that we think he probably could.
Yeah. Is there... Okay, so like taking that on board, right? There's any number of potential outcomes here, but is there a world in which they start listening to offers for Jadon Sancho, or send him out on loan for the second half of the season and say, right, go off and play some football with somebody else, and then we'll see where we are? Or do you think that this is the type of thing that they'll sort in-house over the next 6 months and make a decision in the summer?
I'm sure they won't want to sell him right now. I don't think he's in danger of getting sold soon, but if you look at the people he's competing with, it definitely makes sense that if in June he's not doing anything, then there's a chance they might want to sell him, because they need money for players and they're already spending like they've been sold, really. They spent money that they didn't really have last summer, presumably on the basis that whoever buys the club is going to have the money to finance a few purchases anyhow. So I don't think that Sancho will get sold as some kind of punishment for not delivering between now and the end of the season. But if he doesn't deliver between now and the end of the season and they need money and there are a few players in his position, which there are, then he's definitely in danger. But I'm absolutely certain there's enough about the way he plays football at his best that the club will want to try and work that out rather than just say, well, let's get someone else.
Let's talk. Sorry, Shane. Let's talk a little bit about Rashford, because the return to form is really quite marked. The goal last night, if people haven't seen it, it's sensational. It's like the type of ebullient finish that we thought he was going to be capable of on a regular basis. And if he starts playing like that week in, week out, then Manchester United have a really special player again. So is that partly down to Ten Hag? Is it partly down to Rashford? Is it partly down to his experience at the World Cup? What has come together for Rashford in the last, I don't know, 8 weeks, 10 weeks?
Well, I think all of the above, but the thing about Rashford is like Sancho in a way. Rashford was never clear really about what was upsetting him last season. He's been clear subsequently that he wasn't happy in his life. We don't know if he had stuff going on in his personal life. He wasn't happy with the football was so depressing that he was just unhappy with that. He wasn't enjoying playing for United and playing in that environment. It could be that. We don't really know very much more beyond those general broad brushstrokes. The thing with Rashford, I think, is that he has a lot of natural ability. I don't think he's got the feet that Sancho does, if we're comparing them directly, which we may as well do because they are going to be fighting for the same place in the team. But what we do know about Rashford physically is better than Sancho. He's faster and he's stronger. So if you add that ridiculous pace that he's got, and he's getting stronger as well, and he's got confidence, then what Sancho has over Rashford is that kind of, that just delightful touch and perhaps a little bit more imagination. Sancho's not a killer and Rashford is. So what we're seeing from Rashford now is what you get when you have someone who's physically in their prime and they're just really happy with the way things are going. And the thing with Rashford, I always thought that I think that he is a more naturally talented player than someone like Raheem Sterling, who I named because they were fighting for the same position in the England squad. It was always been Sterling who's get it previously, but I always felt to me like the difference between Rashford and Sterling was much more to do with environment than it was to do with individual. Rashford's stronger than Sterling, he's faster than Sterling. So if you take those two physical imperatives, what was enabling Sterling to be better than that was he was playing in a better team for a better manager. What you're getting now with Rashford is when all those things are aligned. So you've got the physical strength and power and speed that enables him to be the best athlete that he can be. And you've also got a team that he's part of now that feels like it's going somewhere. And Rashford's never really had that before. And what we're seeing now is when all those things fit together. So you see him and he gets on the ball like he did last night, and he is very hard to stop. And if you're not able to stop a player like that physically, then if they're also cleverer than you and more committed than you as well and more skillful than you, then that is a very tricky combination. And United have that at the moment. And what they haven't got from Rashford is that his top level has always been a brilliant level. The difference with him and what seems to be the case now is his modal level, the level that he produces every week, and his bottom level, the level that he produces at his worst. Those two things have gone up. And so what you're seeing now is someone who's more productive on a weekly basis rather than someone who, if Mars is aligned with Venus and everything works really nicely, he can do something good for you. The circumstances are such that he's able to deliver a really good level on a more frequent basis.
Daniel, the back four last night had an interesting look to it, and of course Varane and Martinez are to come back in. But one man that wasn't there last night, he was sick, was Harry Maguire. He's come out of the World Cup smelling of roses a little bit. Like, is there a place for him at some point back in the United central defence, do you think?
I think we know where Maguire is. Maguire's a good defender. He's a Premier League level defender. Nothing that I've seen from Maguire makes me think he's a top 2 or 3 in the Premier League defender. Nothing I've seen Maguire playing at international level has made me change my mind on that. He's still not quick enough at international level. He still could use a lot of protection. And even if we look back to the game against France, which to me felt like a sea change for England, I said this when we spoke about it afterwards, that to me was the first time you'd seen Gareth Southgate's England take on another really good team and try and dominate the game. But even in that environment, when the ball comes in and it's clutch, it's Maguire who loses his header, doesn't get near his header to Giroud. And it doesn't mean I don't think Maguire's a good player. I think Maguire's a decent player, but the standard of player that United are going to need to have to really challenge for the title, challenge for the Champions League, you're not doing that with Harry Maguire as one of your first choice centre-backs. And I think Maguire knows that now. I think the manager knows that as well, because whenever he could, he picked Martinez and Varane. And when one of them wasn't available, he picked Lindelof. So I don't think that Maguire is even the first replacement. And if he wants to get on with his career, he will leave United in the summer, and I think that will probably happen.
You seem, I think most Manchester United fans seem pretty happy with Ten Hag. The fact that there's a grown-up in charge, that he has a vision, he's He's fighting for that vision week in, week out. And this is a real opportunity now to see how the team has progressed over the course of the 4 weeks while he's been working week in, week out with a huge number of those players.
Maybe in that a big chunk of his best players haven't been around. So the problem is that partly he's been missing, and partly the players who he's been working with haven't had a serious competitive game in best part of 6 weeks. So I think it's asking a lot that we should see all of the work that Ten Hag has done in the immediate aftermath of the World Cup. We don't know what football's going to look like with a World Cup in the middle of the season because it's never happened before. When you think about what's going to happen in the next few weeks, United only had 2 players who were involved in the final, but imagine the absolute total abject misery of losing a World Cup final, or the misery of winning a World Cup final, and then the thing that you have to do next is descend to the depths of an English winter and Forest at home, which is what United's next league game is, let's say. And you've got to get yourself up for that, having seen your team either win the World Cup or lose the World Cup. At least like the players who we saw play last night, and some of them were lost in the quarterfinals, they've had a bit of time to assimilate their new reality. Like I'm sure Bruno Fernandes, I'm sure Marcus Rashford came back to United and they felt extremely unhappy because they thought they could win the World Cup and they didn't, and they came out earlier than they thought they were gonna. But they've had time to reflect on that, and they probably just wanted to play as soon as possible. But the players that have played in the final have all of a sudden have to try and confront the drudgery, the grind of the Premier League season, and we have no idea how they're going to cope with that. And if it turns out that Martinez and Varane don't cope with that well, United are going to have a problem. And it doesn't really matter how Ten Hag coaches. I mean, he's obviously part of making them feel like it's all right, but you could totally understand how one might lose the run of oneself after winning the World Cup in that way, or after losing the World Cup in that way.
I can. Well, I can't really. I've no clue what that would be like, but we can but dream.
It's not right though, basically. I think the idea that this World Cup in the middle of the season, I mean, obviously we know all the reasons that it happened, but to feel like we can make assumptions about what we're going to see now, I mean, maybe we can. I liked what Scott McTominay said the other day before United played Burnley. He says that he's messaged Martinez, to say Mazel Tov, basically, well done, you won the World Cup. And Martinez has replied saying, right, now we go for the next one. And that felt like quite a good example, one of many tremendous examples of what separates professional elite athletes from people like us.
It's true. It's totally true. And that's they kept training after all their victories and defeats when they were kids, and they've been doing this their entire lives. So frequently they all say they never quite enjoyed the moment of the victory as much, and it's only now in retirement that they can actually fully appreciate it. And I can see that too.
And
but then
we're seeing it. If you look to make a comparison, if you look at what's going on with the England cricket team, right? The thing that's, to me, is incredible about that is that the thing that they've somehow managed to do is they've managed to remove the pressure from elite sport, because they're saying to the players that if you win, that'll be good, and if you don't win, it doesn't really matter. And football is obviously far too important to say those things about, but what the massive upshot of that is that you end up sending out a team of players that aren't scared to perform or aren't scared to try stuff, and they've reached a level of confidence in their managers that is inspired by confidence in themselves, that enables them to go and perform in a different way. And I don't think that's already changed cricket, but I wonder if looking forward, that's actually going to change sport, where people in other sports think, what can we do to make the joy of competing as pure as it is for that England cricket team at the moment? Because we've never really seen management like this before, and the speed with which they've achieved these absurd results makes you wonder if people in other sports are also thinking that way.
It'll be interesting to find out. Daniel, thanks very much for injecting a bit of Christmas spirit this morning. Good to see you.
Oh, good night. Goodbye, everyone.
Cheers.
Happy Christmas.
That's Daniel Harris giving us his thoughts. The game next Tuesday against Nottingham Forest for Manchester United.
Yeah, 27th. You'd almost forget about domestic football, as Colin would call it, over Christmas. It's nice to have that as well over the few days.
Well, that's because you're addicted to the darts.
I was going to say darts and football equals Christmas.
NBA and NFL on Christmas Day.
Oh, yeah.
If you're stuck.
Is that a bit mad? Playing actual games on Christmas Day?
I mean, I don't think they think about Christmas Day. They open the pubs in other countries on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
It's only us who had that kind of weird, no, you batten down the hatches from midnight on Christmas Eve.
We have the nightclub. There's a nightclub in Monaghan that opens at midnight on Christmas night. So
yeah,
I mean,
that was your release valve.
Yeah, exactly.
And were the fights good outside that, or were they bad?
Do you know what? There were never any fights because it was always just the townies, the locals, because there's no taxis. So
right.
no one from outside the town goes.
And that's where the fights would have been.
Usually
townies
the fights
versus
is the townies versus the bogmen.
Is it?
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Well, generally speaking.
And the townies not fight amongst themselves.
Or else the
sure?
Nordies would come down and that'd be
real trouble.
Monaghan lads against the Tyrone lads.
Right.
Which, I mean, is recipe for disaster on the streets of Monaghan town. But no, Christmas night is like...
How bad it get?
It get bad.
It get bad?
It can get bad.
Right.
As you can imagine.
I can't imagine.
Talk about sledging on a GA pitch. You can imagine the sledging when there is no GA pitch or referee to marshal affairs.
Right.
So it can get fairly messy, but yeah, Christmas spirit. Hopefully it won't happen this Christmas. We'll all be friends and yeah. But Christmas night is one of those where it's just local.
Heavily policed or not?
It would be fairly heavily policed. Yeah. There'd be enough police or Gardaí around to keep it all calm. I'm probably over exaggerating. Monaghan is a lovely place to go. Well, this isn't a great ambassadorship for it. But, I mean,
it's just the truth, Jane, the unvarnished truth. But you're a Smithfield hipster now, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's never any trouble there.
I might bring a parrot into the pub in Monaghan when I come home.
I think it's Cockatoo, is it? He has his own Instagram account. Do you know this?
Does he?
This is all true.
I've seen him around before.
This was in our Telegram last night.
It's a proper he was doing the rounds. Rocco McCaw.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's like the most sociable. We were actually wondering about
4,500 followers on Instagram.
Here
a military macaw.
I wonder, does the macaw have bad hearing now because of all the loud music it's been?
And was Rocco making noise last night?
No, he was just sitting on people's shoulders.
Oh, you're probably in these pictures, are you? It's pictures from last night. I'll tell you what we'll do over the. It does look very hipsterish.
It was very, very hipsterish. I felt like I should have shaved into the handlebar moustache and.
Well, just lean into it now. You live there.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be a hipster type now.
You are. Sister musician.
That doesn't mean I'm a musician.
Into your space. That's like your
space.
You just haven't. You
Call
just
me a spacer.
All you need is the fixie.
Yeah. I think.
And the ends of your trousers just slowly getting turned up.
They actually are turned. They are turned up this morning.
There you go.
Yeah. From last night. So.
All right, OTB AM even is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs and the Christmas spirit, it turns out, today for an effortless finish to your day. We have loads coming your way. Ailis McSweeney is going to join us at 9:10. Fergal Boland is going to join us in about half an hour. We'll run you through the sports pages and the sports news. It's an interesting theory, not caring about something making you better at it. Beth Mead won the BBC Sports Personality of the Year award last night, and she's spoken about her mum's diagnosis of terminal cancer, and Kathleen was making the point pre-show that since she went public with that diagnosis, her form has become world-beating. Literally, they won the World Cup. Unfortunately, she's got an ACL and she's going to miss the World Cup next year. But that point of putting the sport in context and it therefore the outcome not mattering, all that matters is doing your very best, is really interesting.
Yeah, she's a fascinating character, Beth Mead. And by the way, I made the point for Ronnie O'Sullivan yesterday, but I mean, Beth Mead clearly deserved it. My point was more that snooker is underrepresented and under
snooker
notice.
has won before. I was looking at the list. Steve Davis won a couple of years. Nigel Mansell won twice. Dennis Taylor didn't win it when he beat
Davis
Steve
in
Davis.
85. Yeah, you see.
It's like Barry McGuigan won it.
Ronnie wasn't even in the top 3 last night, which I thought was surprising. But Beth Mead, extraordinary character. She had an unbelievable year. I mean, well deserved. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I do wonder if there's like a bit for the Irish rugby team to learn ahead of the World Cup. Going, look, your destiny might be to be another team that craps out at the quarterfinals, but it might not be, and it shouldn't define the rest of your life.
Yeah, 100%. Take the wins and the losses with a pinch of proverbial salt if you can.
Anyway,
someone commented, was a column saying the parrot should have been called Richie McCaw.
Oh, the Euros, obviously. Sorry, the Euros. Yeah. Rocco McCaw says hello. So
should be Richie McCaw, but maybe the owner's not a sports fan, or a rugby fan. So fair enough.
Ethnically Latin American, hatched in Tipperary in 2020, moved to Dublin because I'm a city bird at heart.
He's a hipster bird now. living in Smithfield or wherever he's living.
There you go.
It's great to see him.
Right, we're going to take a quick break. We're back chatting to Jack Nicholls from the BBC about the Formula 1 season. During the break, you're going to hear from Jonathan Wilson chatting about Messi and Maradona's legacy.
Testing 1 2 1 2. GMAC 1 2. GMAC's morning motivational moment, or something along those lines. There's so many to choose from.
Good morning, Graham McDowell here, GMAC as you guys like to call me. Some Thursday motivation for you now. One of my favourite movies, and there are so many to choose from, is The Shawshank Redemption, also like Gladiator, Social Network. But in The Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne famously delivers a line that we often use on the Lived Sir. Get busy living, or get busy dying. That's your Thursday motivation, folks. See you tomorrow.
GMAC's morning motivational moment, or something along those lines. There's so many to choose from.
So your book, Angels with Dirty Faces, the footballing history of Argentina, where does 2022 fit into, I suppose, various attempts to put some kind of narrative on this amazingly interesting and varied footballing country?
Well, I think it actually does provide I'm really hoping they let me do an updated version, because one of the problems when you do a book like that is you're sort of ending it in the present day, and you don't know what's going to happen next, and it can be quite hard to sort of find a place for narrative to stop. Whereas this clearly, this is a cycle coming to an end, and mainly that's the Messi cycle. Messi's 5 World Cups. Very few people get a story that good that they keep failing, and then at the very last moment, they achieve this thing that's really the only thing left in his career, and I think probably means more to him than anything else he's achieved in his career, because it is for his country, and that slight unease which had existed between Messi and Argentina, I mean, that's diminished anyway in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, but that sets the seal on this. You know, he is a great Argentinian hero on the level of Maradona.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
OTB Sports Rugby.
Do I think England are going to win the World Cup? They can, because they're still England. They can get it together. They've got a lot of players to pick from, but I think it was unlikely with Eddie, and it's probably still unlikely with Steve Borthwick or anyone else.
Subscribe to the rugby stream on the OTB Sports app now.
Are you a sports fanatic who loves to travel? Then sportspass.ie is for you. Log on for the chance to win the trip of a lifetime in 2023 to a top global sporting event. 8 winners get to choose from 12 incredible prizes, including trips to the Women's World Cup in Australia, the Super Bowl, the Masters and WrestleMania. All prizes include return flights, accommodation and tickets for 2 people from anywhere in the world. That's sportspass.ie. You win, you choose.
OTB AM with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
All right, 8:28 a.m. on this Thursday morning's OTB AM, and it's towards the end of the year now, so we wanted to touch on the Formula 1 year that was, and a few of the news stories doing the rounds in the sport over the last week or two. Delighted to say Jack Nicholls, the BBC Radio 5 Live F1 commentator, joins us on the line this morning. Morning, Jack, how are things?
Morning, good, thank you.
Great to have you on. Thanks a million for taking the call this morning. We do want to focus on the year that was, and a few of your highlights of the Formula 1 calendar just gone. But there has been a few stories doing the rounds over the last week or two in the sport, and the FIA banning political signs has been one that's rumbled people to some degree. I know Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton often, two of the proponents of various signs. The Arrest the Cops Who Killed Breonna Taylor t-shirt famously that Lewis Hamilton wore in 2020. Has this been a surprise or something a long time coming from the FIA?
I think it's the first thing to point out is that it's not sort of exactly a banning, because it's just a request. I say just, it is a request that these demonstrations or political points have to be approved in writing by the FIA beforehand. So on paper, that suggests that, let's use Hamilton's Breonna Taylor t-shirt. He could, in writing, put it to the FIA, I want to wear this t-shirt on the podium, and they could, in theory, accept it. But the worry is, of course, that they wouldn't, and that they are giving themselves the power to deny anything, basically, that anyone wants to make in terms of a political statement. So those actions are not banned. They just have to get permission before they happen, and it's doubtable that they would get the permission. So it's a little interesting, and I think it has kind of come a little bit out of nowhere, to be perfectly honest. You might remember earlier this year there was a whole debate about jewelry and what jewelry you could or couldn't wear that kind of suddenly came out of nowhere. So it feels like the FIA are kind of flexing their muscles a little bit in terms of, you have to do what we say, and they're trying to kind of lay down the law, which I think has caught people out a little bit. I don't think anyone was expecting this new kind of regulation.
Is part of this, Jack, that most sports organisations probably have these rules on their statute books anyway, and that there's a bit of a loophole here, and that we would actually expect if you were going to make a protest, you would make a protest irrespective of what the rules were. So this is really just tidying up some administrative nonsense, really, and that it doesn't change anything, because ultimately, like, if the sanctions are going to be what we would expect, like please don't do that again, or I can't imagine if Lewis Hamilton makes a protest next year that the sanction will be anything significant in terms of pushing him down the grid or banning him for a race, surely.
Yeah, there's nothing in these new wordings and regulations that suggest what the punishment will be. It's not, if you do a political protest, then you lose 10 championship points or you get a race ban or anything. There doesn't appear to be anything sporting that would come from it. And as you say, just clarifying the wording like this would make it a protest. And if Hamilton, if let's say Hamilton, Vettel's retiring, as you say, but if a driver decides to do a protest, now it's against the rules, then it is still a protest, and so you're protesting it. So changing the rules to make it a protest doesn't really seem to change a huge amount, and that's why I think it's more of a kind of power move from the FIA rather than anything that will necessarily have a huge impact.
It's fairly reactive, all this, Jack, from the FIA, isn't it? Because remember that Hamilton wearing the T-shirt on the podium, and that has kind of led to them now allowing drivers to only wear race suits closed up to the neck on the podium. So it seems to be something they're like, as things happen and as drivers make certain stands, they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should nip that in the bud.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting part of it, and it's not entirely dissimilar to the armband stuff at the World Cup. With Harry Kane and the other European countries that wanted to wear the rainbow armband at the World Cup. It's still that sort of thing of these global sports bodies wanting to make sure that they remain neutral, I suppose, because this kind of political protest had never really happened in Formula One before, and whether that's because it is a white middle class sport predominantly for its entire history, and so therefore there wasn't really a huge amount to protest against, if you will. But then Hamilton coming in, who doesn't come from that sort of background, is the driver who's really changed that and really started to make these protests. And I think that the FIA are concerned about it and concerned that every race is going to be a different political statement. And I think they also are concerned because they know the countries that they race in are controversial. With races in Saudi Arabia, even Bahrain in the past has been controversial and maybe still is. And they also race in Qatar. And, as I say, we heard all of the stuff about the World Cup over the last month, and Formula One raced in Qatar before the World Cup was there, and it's going to be back again this year. So, though I think they're just aware that those discussions will happen over the course of the year, and as you say, trying to nip it in the bud, which is, on the one hand, it's their prerogative, I suppose, but on the other hand, it's disappointing.
Really interesting that you bring up the World Cup and Qatar. Obviously, what seems to have happened in Qatar was that Qatar told FIFA what to do, and FIFA said, okay, no problems, right up to the very last minute deciding on the drink ban, which on the face of it was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. But then you think about what it actually says about the power of the country hosting it. So maybe this is the FAI getting their ducks in a row for when they are saying, actually, no, you can't wear a rainbow helmet, and we are going to take action. But it'll be a really interesting situation because Lewis Hamilton has reached a point where it feels like he's going to do what he wants to do.
Well, and that's the thing. And if there's not going to be sporting sanctions, that's that will be the determining factor, won't it? Because we heard the FA come out and say, well, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but they were threatened with yellow cards or unlimited sanctions. I think was the phrase that the FA could have implemented on England or whoever wore the armband. Whereas, as you say, Hamilton, it's tough to say Hamilton's bigger than Formula One, but he's not far off, to be honest. And he's getting to the twilight of his career, even though he's still driving excellently. He's only got, another 2 or 3 years remaining in the sport. So is he going to be fussed that if he wears a rainbow helmet in Qatar at the end of or at the start of next season, is he going to be fussed that he gets a €1 million fine? No, I don't think so. I think he would do that for that level of publicity that it would get, and for that level of awareness that it would raise. So that's the challenging thing, is when you have an independent sporting celebrity such as Hamilton, can the FIA really stop him doing anything he wants? I don't know.
It's funny, Jack, isn't it? Because we so much controversy, understandably, over the Qatar World Cup, and yet in Formula One, I mean, it's like water off a duck's back, because they've been, having races in these countries for so many years. I remember even this season, wasn't it, in Jeddah, where you have a rocket strike in Saudi Arabia, not far from the track. Smoke coming across the track, and drivers wondering where this is coming from. So, if there's a sport that's well equipped to deal with controversies or issues like this, it is Formula One.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And Formula One has always been, I suppose you could say, pushing the boundaries of where they go to in the world. Even back to 1986, when there was a race in Hungary, they went behind the Iron Curtain for the first time for a motor race, and that was sort of at the height, or maybe the sort of downturn, but Cold War times, and they still went there, and went to Saudi Arabia for the first time 2 years ago, which and Bahrain, there was a lot of controversies in Bahrain in the 2010s. Baku in Azerbaijan gets a little bit of heat sometimes when Formula One goes there, and Formula One's argument is, well, we're a sport, we're here to race wherever we should race, and we're not here to make political statements. But there's that crossover, isn't there, of where politics becomes human rights, and that's the grey area that Formula One has found itself in a lot over the last few years. And before the World Cup in Qatar even came about, well, not before it was announced, obviously, but before it happened.
It's funny, we were talking yesterday, Jack, on the show about the January transfer window in football, and kind of looking ahead, and I'm looking at the team principals. Now, a lot of these names won't be familiar to people. If you've seen Drive to Survive, some of them will be, but some of the changes over the last month have been quite incredible. So Fred Vasseur, who was with Alfa Romeo, is replacing Mattia Binotto at Ferrari as team principal. Andreas Seidel from McLaren has joined the Sauber group, so he's going to oversee this new Audi venture into Formula One. McLaren have appointed Andrea Sella as principal. Jost Capito has stepped down from Williams. This is fairly mad. It's unforeseen to see so many changes. It's like a crazy transfer deadline day almost in football.
It's absolutely wild. Honestly, I've never known anything like it in Formula One, because there's not really a culture in Formula One of manager changes. You get it a little bit at Ferrari. They've been through quite a few team principals as they try and get back towards the front. But you look at Red Bull, ever since they entered Formula One in the mid-2000s, their team principal has been Christian Horner, and he's still there, 15 years later. And Toto Wolff has been the team principal pretty much since Mercedes rejoined Formula One. So you don't get huge turnovers of the management staff in the way that you do in football. So for all of this to kick off in the closed season is really, really interesting. I think that the Ferrari one is obviously a reaction to the fact that they had a really good car this year, but operationally were really very, very weak. And so Mattia Binotto has been fired there, and as a result, Fred Vasseur's coming in. And Vasseur is a man with a huge amount of motorsport experience. He's run teams in Formula 2 and Formula 3, the junior formula, for many, many years. And I think that Ferrari hope he can bring a bit of sort of operational nous to the team, because that's what they're lacking, really. They seem to be able to build a good car, but they don't seem to be able to race it well. So that's what they're hoping with Vasseur. And as you say, all the other changes and appointments, some were kind of seen coming, like Binotto leaving Ferrari. That was kind of known for maybe a month or so now. But some came completely out of the blue. Jos Capito at Williams, we had no idea that was coming. And suddenly there's a press release and you're like, oh, okay, right, fine. What? And the McLaren stuff, and yeah, it's unprecedented, I think, this amount of movement.
What do you put it down to?
I think that so I think the Ferrari one is, as I mentioned, that sort of need for results, really, that Ferrari just aren't getting. I think the Andreas Seidl moving to Sauber is a very good move from Audi. So I think that Audi have been very smart. They're joining Formula One in 2026. So they know they need to start properly planning now. So taking Andreas Seidl, who came into McLaren to work in Formula One for the first time, really, a couple of years ago, and has really overseen their resurgence from when they were near the back of the grid to now not quite winning races, but Lando Norris finished on the podium this year in Imola, and they're back towards running at the front. He nearly won a race last year, actually, Lando Norris in Sochi. So Seidl has been really impressive. So I think it's a really smart move from Audi to come in and poach him. And then the Capito thing at Williams, and then obviously they've appointed internally with Andrea Stella, which I think is a good appointment. And Jos Capito, it just seems like it didn't gel really with Williams. He came in at the start of last season, and I think there's very mixed feelings about him from within the team. They didn't make the amount of progress that they wanted this year. They still finished last in the team's championship. So I think it's just a perfect storm of, like, they're not all related. I think that's the thing, is they're all quite independent incidents that happen to have happened this year. Jos Capito could have had one more year. If Audi weren't coming into Formula One, then Seidl wouldn't be leaving McLaren. So it's all just that perfect storm that's made it so wild, really.
So it's a coincidence as opposed to a trend. I did wonder if, look, from the outside, it feels like we're in the midst of a Formula One boom. You see the viewership figures from America for the first time. Formula One is cracking the top 20, and it's not once, it's twice. And you're like, okay, well, that is a revolution. And so therefore, the money and the marketing seems to be booming, and the teams all seem to be making money at a level that they haven't done in the past. Certainly from the outside, is that the sense within the sport?
Yes, I think that is very much the case. I think that the Formula One is in a really, really good place right now, and I think that's part of the Williams reasoning, I think, for getting rid of Jos Capito, is that we're now okay. We were one of the worst funded teams on the grid, probably the poorest team on the grid, apart from maybe Haas. But now there's a budget cap, so everybody can only spend the same amount throughout the season. There's more revenue coming in because there's more races. There's going to be 24 races next season, which is the most ever. And as you say, viewership in the US is huge. There's going to be 3 F1 races in America next year. There was a new race in Miami this season. There's a new race in Las Vegas next season down the strip, which is going to be something quite remarkable. And I think, I think Formula One's in a huge boom right now. And it's, I don't know. For me, it's great to see, because you spend it's something I've loved since I was a kid, and when I was at school, in the mid-90s, no one else liked Formula One, so you were a bit of a loner there, whereas now suddenly everyone's interested, and especially with Drive to Survive, my cousins will text me being like, oh, can't believe Toto Wolff, and I'm like, what? I've known you for what? You've been my cousin for, well, obviously my whole life, and you've never had any interest in Formula One. All of a sudden, all these random people like F1 and are watching it, and it's cool, but it just needs the racing to. It was the perfect storm last year because you had Verstappen and Hamilton going head to head. There were 3 seasons of Drive to Survive before that in very boring F1 seasons, and so no one cared. So it was the perfect storm of an amazing sporting year combined with Drive to Survive, combined with good races in America, and Formula One's really riding that wave at the moment.
The latest online trend is Nepo babies, and obviously Mick Schumacher found that he must have been feeling his collar a little bit, going, what's going on here? Why am I getting caught up in this? But he's got a job pretty quickly after having lost a job, which makes me feel like he was always going to get that job anyway. He's just good but not great. Is that the story?
I think that's pretty accurate. I think he was a little bit unlucky, honestly, to lose his job with Haas. I thought he'd had a okay enough season. The first third of the year was pretty dodgy. He had some really big crashes in Saudi Arabia and in Monaco, but then he kind of got himself back together, had a really good race in Silverstone in Austria where he finished 8th and 6th, looked like he was kind of back on track, and the rest of the season was okay, but that was about it. And that's how he'd looked, honestly, in his junior formulas coming through the ranks. He won Formula 2, but not spectacularly. When you see drivers coming up through the field, and we've seen it with Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, George Russell and Lando Norris in particular, they come in and they win fairly comfortably the championships in the junior formula. That didn't happen with Schumacher. He won them, but not exactly at a canter. I think he could have done another season in Formula One and been absolutely okay, because he was absolutely okay this year. But ultimately, Haas decided that they want a driver with more experience, really, who will get them more points, which is understandable. So he's going to be the reserve driver at Mercedes, which is a neat synergy, because his dad Michael ended his career with Mercedes. In fact, he started his professional career with Mercedes in the late 1980s, racing in sports cars. So there's a nice synergy there. I don't think reserve driver at Mercedes will lead to a Formula One seat, to be honest. I don't think he's now in the running to take over from Hamilton, but if he impresses, you never know, because Nick de Vries was the reserve driver for Mercedes this season, and he's ended up with a seat in F1 next year. So the Mick Schumacher story in F1 might not be completely over just yet.
Finally, Jack, we'd asked you to kind of pick out your top few moments from the calendar year just gone, and you'd mentioned Bahrain, where we had the Leclerc winning ahead of Sainz, Silverstone, unbelievable race, and Carlos Sainz winning his first ever Formula One Grand Prix. And then, of course, one that stood out for me as well in my memory was Japan, where Verstappen wins, gets enough points to secure the championship, but that terrifying moment where Pierre Gasly almost hits the tractor, I think it was, on the side of the track. What was your standout moment from the year we've just had?
Yeah, I think Japan was a really crazy one, because not only Verstappen won the championship, but he won the championship not knowing he'd won the championship, because he didn't think he had enough points. Johnny Herbert told him, "You've won the championship." Verstappen said thanks, but didn't really believe him. The team didn't believe him. No one really believed that the FIA had got it right, but they had, even though they got it wrong. It was a very complicated and strange point scenario. So that was a weird way to end the season. But I think Bahrain was really exciting because it looked like we were going to have a title fight. Leclerc and Verstappen were wheel to wheel for 3 or 4 laps, swapping places for the lead. And you were like, okay, it's not Verstappen versus Hamilton anymore. It's Verstappen versus Leclerc. But I think that Silverstone race was it was the race of the season. You just never knew what was going to happen. Verstappen dominating it, gets a bit of damage. The car drops back, drops pace. And all of a sudden you've got Hamilton overtook 2 cars in one corner at one point. While Sainz was fighting with Perez, Hamilton came through to take both of them. It was a remarkable race. Looked as though Hamilton was going to win it for a while, but Sainz took his first win, and it was just a brilliant Formula One race. The 2022 British Grand Prix will be one that we talk about in 10 years' time of being like, what a race! Huge crash at the start as well for Zhou Guanyu. It just really had everything.
Jack, great to have you with us this morning. Enjoy Christmas. Thanks a million.
No worries. Have a good day.
It's Jack Nicholls there from BBC 5 Live, commentator from the Formula One season just gone, the highlights and everything else. What was your highlight?
That's it was a kind of an anticlimactic season because of the way the previous season had ended in Abu Dhabi.
Everything's going to be an anticlimax after that.
Yeah, I think. Look, it's a random one. Kevin Magnussen's performance across the year in a Haas. I love when drivers.
I'm not a hipster, he said earlier. I'm not a hipster, he said. What have you just picked? Kevin Magnussen in the Haas.
Well, when drivers do well in crap cars, then they're really a good driver. And Kevin Magnussen, I think, proved that this year. He's in a crap car, and yet he is still getting results. So, that was my highlight. The low light, of course, being Pierre Gasly nearly having catastrophe in Japan. So, a couple of very big standout moments.
All right. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. It is 8:50. Carl Mullaney's with us. Carl, good morning to you.
Hey lads, how's it going?
What's going on?
Very well. Waiting for the weekend.
People-
Early alarms hit different, don't they, around Christmas?
People that have checked out mentally, my housemates have already finished for Christmas, so it's makes it all the tougher, I think, to...
Tell you what, on the way in this morning, I noticed a lot of people still out.
Still out?
Yeah.
What time was that?
I got the bus at 4.
Jesus,
so I was walking through town at about 4:30.
See, people can't get taxis home.
Yeah. There was a lot of taxis around actually that time. Noticeably more, yeah.
Right.
Quite a few, yeah. So you do question your life decisions when you're on the way into work.
People aren't going into town as much, I think, because they're fed up and not being able to get taxis or buses.
Yeah.
Definitely been a local backlash.
100%. I'm very lucky in that, when you're in somewhere within walking distance.
I didn't realise it was the Dice Bar you were in last night, the new Dice Bar.
New Dice Bar, yeah.
All right, very good.
People remember that.
Because one of the commenters was like, "Oh, you should check out this place." I'm like, "Well, we've literally been talking about it the whole show."
Place. Yeah. That is literally it.
Miguel C. Is that his name?
Fidelity. Yeah.
Miguel N.
It's a completely different vibe to what the old Dice Bar was, apparently. So it's all changed. It's really cool. Music was fantastic. Bopping away, so I was sitting in the seat. But lucky to have that within walking distance. I'm the same in Monaghan as well, where we're in kind of just the outskirts of the town, we're walking distance. Footpath
to all the hipster places.
To all the pubs, the hipster. There's not many hipster pubs in Monaghan. You'll be unsurprised to hear.
Where you are, you bring the hipster.
Exactly, yeah. That's my ambition.
There's actually lots going on, Carl, surprisingly, for whatever day, the 22nd.
Yeah, loads. And big game tonight in the Carabao Cup, Liverpool against Manchester City. 8 o'clock start for that one. Caoimhín Kelleher likely to start for Liverpool there. Celtic 9 points clear again at the top of the Scottish Premiership. They were 2-1 winners over Livingston last night. Arsenal beat Zurich by 9-1 in the Women's Champions League. Katie McCabe involved there for Arsenal. Tonight Chelsea take on PSG in Group A. And some sad news from Pele's current health situation. His daughter says that he's taking huge comfort from the messages of love he's receiving from around the world, but the 82-year-old will spend Christmas in hospital due to the progression of his cancer, and doctors say he requires greater care as he fights colon cancer, with close attention being paid to heart and kidney dysfunction. So let's hope that everything works out there. In terms of the darts, disappointing night last night for Limerick's Willie O'Connor. He exited the tournament after a 3-0 loss to Germany's Gabriel Clemens. No such worries for the 3-time champion Michael van Gerwen, who beat Louis Williams 3-0. Gary Anderson among the names in action today, so too James Wade and Vincent van der Voort. Good news for Dublin football supporters last night. 5-time All-Ireland winner Jack McCaffrey featured for Dublin North. That was in the Dave Hickey Cup final last night. 2015 Footballer of the Year, of course, back in the Dublin squad ahead of next season, and he featured for Dublin North in that win over Dublin South last night at DCU. And David Brady has announced that he's stepping down as manager of the Ratoath Senior Footballers, guided them to the Meath County title this year following a narrow win in the final in October. And Beth Mead won the BBC's Sports Personality of the Year award last night.
TV, one of the stories of the year.
Brilliant. And you need that kind of, the rumble on the sideline, the shoulders, and the emotional post-match interviews with their own Aisling O'Reilly, that sort of stuff. You need that. It's hardly surprised that David Brady brings emotion to whatever he does. But
he'll be heavily in demand.
Big
I'd
time.
be surprised if we don't see him in an inter-county job.
Sooner rather than later?
Sooner rather than later, I would think, yeah.
Oh, you'd love him in charge of your county. The passion he brings, there's just something about him.
Yeah.
I actually just want him to get the Mayo job.
Maybe he wouldn't manage another county.
He lives in this part of the country, so it would be difficult, but I mean, you can see how great he would be for loads of counties in the area. But I really hope that we get the opportunity to see him in the Mayo job at some point. And obviously we have a brand new Mayo ticket in, and that's going to be there for a significant period of time. And if you're the Mayo County Board, you're hoping that works well and that Rochford steps up again and that's all part of that system and you've got succession plan in place. But maybe, I don't know, it's but DB being around the place is just good. It's box office.
It's tough. He strikes me as the type of fella. Could he not manage another county? It would be tough for him to manage.
No, well, he could manage in a way at club level, and
it's different at club level, isn't it? You could manage a different club, but maybe it's tough to manage against your own county. Like if say he took the Meath job and they were up against Mayo in a huge All Ireland quarter final, I mean, be tough. I just can't imagine. David Brady managing against Mayo fills me with strange feelings. I can't see it happening. But no, he definitely has a career in county management for sure.
Vinnie Perth floated the notion, I don't know, it's half tongue in cheek, but you should be from your own country to manage international football. It just should be a rule. Like, that's just a rule. And I wonder, should we just do the same in Gaelic?
Yeah.
Like at inter-county level?
Yeah, well, in my own county, I'd like to see Vinnie Corey take the job. I was quite happy because you think about the young players in the county, like no one's going to get missed. He knows everyone in the county. He knows the young players that are coming through.
But then he's got an axe to grind against some young fella who stepped on his toe when he was 12.
He's still playing Vinny as well at club level, which is funny. Like he's probably marking some of the lads he's managing.
You're definitely like, do I go extra hard or extra soft now if I want to get in the team? I mean, you have to try to go extra hard. But then,
do, surely, yeah.
There are like Kildare have benefited from outside managers, haven't they?
Well, yeah.
You know,
I mean, Paddy O'Shea, Westmeath.
Yeah, there you go.
There's examples of when it does work.
Could say Miko, like, you know, in the All-Ireland final didn't quite get things right. Didn't get his matchups correct.
Yeah.
Not that we're like bringing that up, but you know.
Sorry, but Malachy O'Rourke is not a Monaghan man, and he's one of our greatest managers. I still want a statue of him in the Diamond in Monaghan Town if the Monaghan County Council are listening. But yeah, I think it works. I don't think it's the same in G. I don't think it has to be an in-house manager. It's great. It's great when it is and when it works. But I think it's kind of working in Galway at the minute. Port Joyce has something special going on down there, but it seems to be the way a lot more counties are headed. You know, picking one of their own.
Yeah.
I can see the argument to both.
There's a question: who's the last outside manager to win an All Ireland football? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head here now, but obviously Dublin had Jim Gavin, Pat Gilroy, Eamon Fitzmaurice was with Kerry in 14.
Jim McGuinness,
Jack O'Connor last season. Jim McGuinness.
All the Throne.
Connor Coonahan, didn't they?
Yeah. Joe Kernan and Armagh. You have to go back a while, don't you? Sean Boylan,
John O'Mahony with
Eugene
Galway.
McGee.
John O'Mahony, it could be.
John O'Mahony with Galway, I guess.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
2001.
98 and 01, yeah.
Someone can correct us in the comments. It's not.
John O and Eugene McGee before that, is it? Is there anybody else?
Probably is.
I think that was the thing with the World Cup and the European Championship, isn't there? Only one outside manager that's won. Was it Greece in 2004?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
All the World Cups have been won by that nationality.
I think so. Again, open to correction, but maybe there's something in it.
That's
just on the men's side, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's mad. John O'Mahony won the last out of house manager.
Yeah. That's a guess now, but
yeah. Someone will probably tell us in the comments straight away if we're wrong. I don't think we are wrong.
Anything else going on, Carl?
That's about it. So Liverpool, Manchester City's the big one tonight, and then the draw for the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, and then back to the Premier League on the 26th. So
Galbally Pierce
revert back.
It is tough to get back used to it. I want to mention as well, Galbally Pierce is winning the Ulster Intermediate Club Championship last night, beating Banty's Carduff. This is a game that was rearranged a number of times, but Galbally now in the semi-final of the All-Ireland playing Dunmore McHale's, my dad's club team, who won the Connacht recently for the first time ever. So shout out to Dunmore McHale's. Hope they do the business. It's the Donnellan club, of course.
That's a perfect segue, because we're going to Fergal Boland, who's probably better known as a footballer, but is actually right now a hurler. Fergal, good morning to you. How are you?
How are you getting on, lads? Thanks for having me on.
The split personality of the dual player is something that you've had to embrace your entire life. How's that going for you at the moment?
Not too bad. So at the minute, it's kind of mainly hurling, but I suppose I was not on the footballers with the minute. So I suppose I'm just kind of focusing everything on hurling, and that's kind of where I'm at the minute. I know the last few years I would always have been at this stage of the year with the Mayo footballers and then hurling with touring. So it's kind of tricky enough to balance the two at that time of the year, because you don't want to be missing too much of the football, because if you miss it, I was kind of one of them players that if I missed something, I would have, fell myself down the ladder a good bit. So I always had to be kind of involved in both setups, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like the skill set in hurling has helped you become a better footballer over the years?
Definitely, there is good correlation there. Yeah, your hand-eye coordination, like obviously in hurling, it has to be really, really sharp, and that definitely does help when it comes back to football. Then you your eye is in straight away, so it definitely does. And even talking to other lads, they'd feel the same about it as well. Yeah,
there was always a fear, I think, and this is going back 2 decades, that the hurlers would come back bulked up too much to be as nimble as they need to be. But then it turns out that the greatest Kilkenny team of all time had a lot of big men on it, and as time is progressing, we're realising that Limerick having a lot of footballers on their team has actually helped. Didn't do Grod Hegarty any harm, I think, is the general sense. So you've been able to work on both at the same time, it feels like, from your perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I would have found throughout the years, like playing games, hurling is definitely a lot more physical than football. That's what from personal experience. Even after games, like even after Sunday, like it's taking you 2 or 3 days now to recover from a game. Whereas football, you mightn't get as big a hits. I would have found. So I definitely think hurling is a lot more physical. At the minute, anyway. That's what I kind of feel.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's a hard one to pin down. I don't know. Is it just with the stick involved or whatever? But you seem to be picking up a lot more belts in the game. I know the last day now, we got a lot of the boys were sore, but I don't know. It's a good question, to be honest.
Which do you prefer playing, Fergal?
So I would have always kind of grown up, say in primary school. I'm from the village of Turin, so right in the middle of it. So I would always hurling would have been always number one for me. And then I would have kind of started playing football then as I was kind of getting older and whatever. But hurling probably would always have been definitely number one for me. Just where I'm from, like everyone in the village where we're living at the minute, whatever, there's 300 or 400 people in the village, and everyone is just completely and utterly obsessed with hurling. Like everyone would support our local club, Ahamore football and Mayo football, but everyone was just completely and utterly engrossed in hurling, and I suppose I probably got dragged into that as well. So I probably would. Hurling would be number one, yeah. And
sorry, I should probably know this, but have you reached this stage of the competition before in the past, or is this a new adventure for the club?
So this basically we won 4 Connacht titles, and then we got bet in 3 of the semi-finals. We lost to Naas last year, Father Neil's the year before, and then Ballyraggart in 2017. So this is the first year we've actually got to the All-Ireland final. So that's kind of where it's at now. Yeah, so it's nice to finally get over the line in the semi-final the last day. So we're just delighted now.
You look at where Naas have gone from last year to this year. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. So you can begin to dream as a club, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you look in kind of more recent years, I suppose Mount Leinster Rangers, they won an All-Ireland intermediate final in a couple of years ago, and then they were in the senior final the year after. So, like, you know what? That's kind of what the sort of kind of our wild ambition, I suppose, at the minute, that would be to base it off that. But, look, we haven't won. We're only in the final at the minute. We haven't won anything yet. So we know we've a massive task in a few weeks' time.
You had a big performance in the semi-final up in Cavan at the weekend as well, Fergal. Tonight, there was a great photograph I saw of yourself and your Uncle Hugh on the pitch celebrating afterwards. He has the hat on and the programme curled up. He looks like the stereotypical GAA fan. It must have been a lovely moment.
Yeah, it was a brilliant moment. He's a gas man. I don't know how he got into the pitch before the game to take pictures as well. He ran on and got in from the stand, but he always seems to be there. But it was an unbelievable win. Like, felt like there was so much pressure on that game that we had to win because we lost 3 previous semi-finals. So just at the end, I suppose seeing the joy of all the supporters was just something special now that I'll never forget.
You'd said before the game, or after the game, that prior to the throw-in, it was one of the most nervous you'd ever been before a match.
Yeah, it was crazy. Even like the game was originally down for Saturday, so we were kind of planning all week for Saturday with the kind of in our head we knew that there was a chance that it might be Sunday, and even leading up to the game, I know I was so nervous the Friday, Saturday. For some reason, and I usually wouldn't get nervous before games, but I just felt like there was so much on the line that if we lost another semi-final, it would be so hard to kind of come back and get to that stage again, because like we in Mayo, like I know there's 2 or 3 clubs, we have such a rivalry with Ballyhonus and such respect for them, but like it's every year there's literally nothing between us, and I know the last few years we've won a lot of county titles, but we've won them by a point or whatever, so it's a long road to get back to a semi-final. So we're just delighted basically to get over the line there last day.
Fergal, you are playing hurling. You said at the start you're not with the footballers at the moment. Was that difficult to deal with, or are you getting on with it? How do you feel about that whole thing now?
Yeah, like I suppose it kind of happened. I kind of got let go the week before the county final, and it was just literally coming home from touring training. And at the time, like, geez, obviously you're crestfallen, you're heartbroken that you're gone away from it. And then I suppose as the weeks go by and you're playing with touring and there's a good buzz around the group, you forget about it for a while. But like obviously when the hurling is over in 3 weeks' time, I'll reassess that. And obviously it'll be difficult not being involved because some of my best friends are involved in that team. But yeah, look, that's the way it is at the minute. It allows me now at the minute to really push everything into touring hurling and focus 100% on it. But I suppose when the season finishes with the hurling, I suppose reassess my performance for the club and the county and see where I can get better off the field, and then have a hopefully good club season with my club Ahamore, and hopefully try and push my way back into the team again.
And is the conversation straightforward? It's like, look, you need to do this, this and this to get back in, or it's just like we're going a different direction? How does it break down?
Yeah, kind of a bit of both. Like to be fair, like I know there's definitely areas in my game that I suppose that would have been highlighted that I need to improve on. So it's up to me now in the next couple of months to try and work on them and really focus on them and have a good season with my club Ahamore and try and force my way back in, I suppose. But that's kind of straightforward enough, I suppose, conversation. Yeah, really.
Like, is it the 7 stages of grief? Like, you know, anger, disappointment. Like, screw you, I'm going to prove you wrong. Or okay, yeah, I understand. Did you have any sense it was coming? I suppose.
Yeah, I probably would have been caught on the hop of small, but I suppose I played a good bit. Came on in a lot of all the championship games last year, so I thought, you know, I might be in the panel for whatever, start the league or start FBD and then see how I get on. But look, that's completely up to the manager's decision. Just wasn't to be. But at the minute, like, to be honest, I would have been disappointed for 2 or 3 days, but after that, then I was so lucky that I had something to focus on, and no better place to go back to than touring your home club and with lads you grow up with. And I have such respect for that. I haven't really thought about it a whole pile since, to be honest, and I won't until after we finish with touring in 3 weeks' time.
The extent of Kevin McStay's backroom team is quite incredible. You've got Donny Buckley and Stephen Rochford, as we know, in there.
Yeah.
Liam McHale has the responsibility for the under-20s liaison. Is Damien Mulligan the man you need to impress with Ahamore? Like, he seems to be the guy given the responsibility for club liaison within the backroom team. So for players looking to break into that Mayo panel, is he the man that I guess you need to impress?
Yeah, I suppose he is. Like, I suppose they're, in fairness to all of them, they would have been at a lot of the club games and stuff. So I worked with Donny and Stephen Rochford before. So like, it's really, you nearly need to impress them all, I suppose. And like, it's probably shown if you play well with your club, you'll get a chance to back in with your county. And obviously now, like with the split season, it's not ideal to come in like down through the years. You might have had a championship game at the start of the year in April, and then if you played well in that, you might get back into whatever the county setup. But like, obviously with the split season and the way Mayo works, you're not playing league football till into May, June. So that's kind of right in the peak of championship inter-county football as well. So it's difficult to force your way in mid-season. So it's just kind of that's the way it is with club season, really. But,
yeah. The one thing I would say about Mayo is that they've seemed to be better than most other counties at making sure that players who leave the system aren't gone forever. That there's loads of players who actually have been brought back in at later stages, having gone away and done some specific work, and gone on to have absolutely brilliant careers, footballer of the year in some instances. So I hope that's giving you some comfort, is it? Yeah,
like even if you look back to, I suppose, Colin Boyle or even Tom Parsons, a few of them, and I've been in contact with a good few of them, like they've were let go and then came back, and basically there were different players when they came back in their careers. I know Colin Boyle was kind of on the periphery, probably similar enough to myself, not playing a whole pile, and then came back and won 4 or 5 All-Stars. Same with TP. He got let go and whatever in 13, and then came back, started midfield then in 14 and had a great career at midfield. So yeah, it definitely does. You look at them stories and it definitely does give you a bit of inspiration. But like, when the hurling's over, I'm going to work my hardest in whatever gym skills, the whole lot, to try and force my way back in.
You bring up Tom Parsons there. I was kind of, when you talked about like this is basically your life for so long, have you thought about like the exterior life to being just a GAA player? Because when your identity is so much bound up in being a Mayo hurler and footballer, a club hurler, a club footballer, when a significant portion of that is taken away, you do look around and go, geez, I need to make sure that the rest of my life is in order here.
That's a good point. Yeah, I suppose like what I found is, even at this time of the year, like if I was involved with Mayo and touring, like your whole life basically is taken up with either going hurling training or either doing a gym session with Mayo or having a meeting or everything. And now you feel like, you have so much free time for other things in in your life. So obviously you get to spend more time with your girlfriend, your family, the whole time as well. So which is good as well. But there definitely is, like, it's amazing when you actually that is taken away from you. The amount of free time is just insane, because like with any intercounty team, once you get up in the morning, that's all you're thinking about is how can you eat well today to be training better this evening? How can you get your protein intake in and all that sort of stuff? So once that's kind of taken away, there's a huge gap there really in your life. But yeah, so definitely.
What was the crack like on the bus home on Sunday, Fergal? I heard there was a pit stop in Granard to watch the World Cup final.
Yeah, it was serious crack. Now we decided to we left Cavan. I think it was just that when the World Cup final was starting, and then we stopped at half time. I think it was in Granard, and Ballygunner and Ballyhale was on, which I was kind of nearly more interested in. And then the World Cup was on, and we stayed there until in the normal time, and then come back to our village. So there's no pub or anything in our village, so we go to our kind of our the neighbour our parish, which is Ahamore. So that's the pub we go to.
That's Aileen's pub, is it?
Yeah, Aileen's. Yeah. So it's kind of famous all around the country, but always some crack in there now. In fairness, with some night, and even I was talking to one of the older fellas in the club on Monday morning, and he said he'd many a good night in Frains, which would be the pub in Turin. He said, but that took the biscuit. He said that was something special, and it was just amazing. Even thinking back, like everyone was in such good form, everyone's on such a buzz, like, so. It'll definitely be one of the nights I'll never forget.
Nathan Murphy has been WhatsApping me in the middle of this, reminding me of a story that Tommy Walsh told about. He was handing out medals, was very excited because he thought, finally I'm going to go to training and I'll have one over on Brian Cody. And he sidled up to Cody at training and he's all happy with himself. And he's like, I met a man who had 24 club championship medals.
Yeah.
And Cody goes, oh yeah, Joe Henry from Turin. And I was like, what? Because obviously it's famous. So he's a club legend, right?
Yeah, he's club legend. Yeah, his brother would have been one of the founding members of the club. But Joe would train us up all along, and he lives in Castlereagh at the minute. But he's a legend in the club. He was on an All-Star trip back in the 80s, so he's a big legend in the club. Joe is. So
maybe that's where Cody had his inside information. But Tommy was like, yeah, and I have this picture in my head now of like Tommy constantly trying to find hurling trivia that he could ask Cody a question, and Cody went, oh no, but Mastermind knows it all.
Yeah, I actually remember that Tommy coming up. He presented the medals to us. Gas man.
There's crack out of Tommy, I'll tell you. There's a man passionate about the sport. Is the pressure off now? It's Monaleen, the Limerick champions in the final. What is the weekend of January 14th or 15th for you, Fergal? So is the pressure off now? You're in uncharted territory, I suppose.
Well, yeah, but like I suppose at the start of the year, like once always our aim the last few years would have been to win an All-Ireland intermediate club title, and that's not sounding cocky or anything. We know in order to do that we have to win our own county and then Connacht. But like I suppose we're looking at the game in a few weeks' time. We're not going up there. We want to win, and if we don't win, it's not going to be, it's going to be a small bit of a letdown. So. We're definitely that's our aim. We're not happy just to be in Croke Park and play in Croke Park, as special as it will be. All we want to do is win in 3 weeks' time. And I suppose like it's going to be a special night for the club, but we have to make sure now that we do our job and we play. We're supposed to be 1 hour away from winning the All-Ireland title, and we just have to make sure we try and do our best to do that.
Well, look, we wish you the very best with it, Fergal. You've been great with your time this morning. Enjoy the Christmas break, and thanks a million.
Thanks a million, lads. Have a good Christmas.
That's Fergal Boland there. Giving us his thoughts ahead of the All-Ireland Intermediate Club Hurling Final. A reminder, OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. C. Bracken's been in touch on YouTube to say, enjoying the show here in Gatwick Airport on the way home for Christmas. Happy Christmas, lads, and thanks for all this year. And thanks to you guys for tuning in all around the world.
Must be a lovely feeling sitting in the airport coming home for Christmas. I mean, a lot of people, I was even chatting to people last night who hadn't been home in 3 Christmases maybe because of all that's ensued, but it must be a special feeling, like especially if you're coming home from somewhere distant, Australia or New Zealand or America, wherever. So fair play for tuning in, no matter where you are.
When will you point the car north?
Point the car north tomorrow afternoon. Try and beat the traffic. I think a lot of people tomorrow's the day, isn't it? Everyone heads home 23rd, Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So Get on the road early.
Somebody yesterday was making the point, it should be Sunday Christmas every year. I was like, I mean,
that's not how it works, is it?
Well, we can make these decisions. Somebody sometime made the decision going to be the 25th. It's totally random.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Fair.
But then I was like, okay, I see what you're doing, but I'll raise you a Thursday.
Thursday for Christmas Day?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you've got Thursday off, you got Friday off, you got Saturday and Sunday's the weekend. It's guaranteed. But if it's on Sunday, you're back to work on the Tuesday. I'm like, 4-day weekend, gonna have some fun.
Yeah, fair. I'll admit, let's start a petition. Move Christmas. I don't know how far it's going to get. People are fairly wedded to the 25th, I think. But yeah, I like the idea. I'm not against it.
Speaking of weddings, we want to say a very massive congratulations. What do you say when someone's getting married? Happy wedding, happy marriage. Emma,
together, yeah.
Emma Carroll, who makes us look and sound good on a daily basis. I see the YouTube commenters already going, "Hey, no, she doesn't." Anyway, she does. She's the one who is responsible for us managing to have good pictures and good sound. And she's getting married. So a massive congratulations to Emma Mairead. And we hope the sun shines on the 28th. And that everybody has an amazing time.
Or the snow falls. It could be quite a
Maybe
nice...
it could be amazing, yeah.
Nice pictures.
Once everybody is there...
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Congrats to Emma and Marie. That's it's a great time of year, I think, to have a wedding as well.
Yeah,
everyone's buzzing. Everyone's happy anyway. So in that in between period, it'll be great. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. So that is, and from everybody at Off the Ball, we're absolutely thrilled for you. Somebody else is saying Gatwick to Knock is a great flight at Christmas.
Everyone buzzing to Knock specifically, right? Yeah.
And sorry, Stephen's obviously insulted that I've credited Emma with the sound and the vision. But, you know, she does both. She does everything. So today, Stephen and Jojo are making us sound and look good.
Stephen and Jojo as well. Yeah.
Or they can take responsibility for any of the. Yeah, that's the bit where you accidentally press the wrong button there. 16 minutes past 9 this morning. OTB AM brought to you live every morning in association with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Here's what's on OTB Sports Radio for you today. OTB Gold at 1 o'clock is Cora Staunton. Leaders' questions with Stuart Lancaster at 3 o'clock. Our retro panel is structure versus spontaneity. I mean, I have no idea what's on the panel. It sounds great.
Spontaneous panel.
6 o'clock is Brian O'Driscoll meeting Issa Nasewa. That is great. And then the show is live tonight with Nathan from 7. Follow Off the Ball across all of our social channels. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to leave a comment. That's going to be important in the new year. Now, up next, former Ireland sprinter and Sanctuary Runners Irish lead Ailís McSweeney will be on to talk about the group's Christmas drive. Stay tuned.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Simo going on his own, he gets the try.
The Red 78. We're both Munster people. Nobody knows Munster rugby better.
Carberry gets over the line, try from Munster.
Available every Wednesday. Don't miss a moment of action. Subscribe to the rugby channel on the OTB Sports app and turn on your notifications now.
Are you a sports fanatic who loves to travel? Then sportspass.ie is for you. Log on for the chance to win the trip of a lifetime in 2023 to a top global sporting event. 8 winners get to choose from 12 incredible prizes, including trips to the Women's World Cup in Australia, the Super Bowl, the Masters and WrestleMania. All prizes include return flights, accommodation and tickets for 2 people from anywhere in the world. That's sportspass.ie. You win, you choose.
OTB AM
with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Right, Sanctuary Runners are running a Christmas initiative to try and get us to run to the North Pole. It's tricky, but it's manageable. Ailís McSweeney is with us this morning to talk to us about it. Ailís, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
I understand you have COVID, like half the country at the moment, so thank you for doing this for us.
Yeah, what a time of the year. But actually, I think we may just have a bad flu. We're fingers crossed and flat out testing here before hopefully a trip home to Cork.
Well, that would be ideal. Obviously, it's not ideal, but better than the alternative. Just for people who are unfamiliar with Sanctuary Runners, will you just explain what the organisation is?
Yeah, of course. It's a solidarity through sport initiative. So we use running, walking, jogging, just to bring people together in their communities, and especially refugees and asylum seekers. So you know yourself, sport is a fantastic way to bring people together, make friends, make connections. And that's what Sanctuary Runners have been doing since 2018. setting up groups around the country, especially where there are direct provision centres. Now, at the moment, obviously, there's emergency accommodation centres in places there never would have been before. So we have new groups popping up all around the country to welcome people to our country. And it's really a lot of crack. It's really a lot of fun. You get to meet people who are new to your community and widening your circle and get out in the fresh air. We all need a bit of an excuse, especially at this time of the year, a bit of extra motivation to get us out of the house.
Yeah, I think it's mad that there's no official government initiative or organisation. This is a completely grassroots thing that got founded and that has grown from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Back in 2018, Graham Clifford, who set this up, he was running himself one day and was thinking, God, I do literally not know anybody who's come to this country seeking asylum. How, I would just not bump into anyone. And he said, this would be lovely to run shoulder to shoulder with someone. So he started a Cork City Marathon that year. They have relay races up to now they have had anyway. So they started entering teams that were a mix between Irish citizens and residents, migrants who might have come here to work, and people who were in the international protection system. And from there, people were tapping them on the shoulder saying, oh, can I do this in my town? Can I do this in my village? And it wasn't initially the plan, but it just absolutely took hold. So we've around 30 groups at the moment and growing all the time. We've actually 3 new ones launching in January in Gort, in Athlone and in Youghal. So it's picking up pace.
The Christmas initiative is a nice way for people to talk about this and to get involved. So can you explain to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. We've been going since Sunday. We're actually going from the North Pole to Áras on Uachtaráin to deliver the President of Ireland a very special gift of some magical running shoes. Apparently he does an annual inspection of Phoenix Park every year and needs to cover every inch. And he just needed these before Christmas, so Santa wasn't going to be able to make it until the big day. And he called on us, and Rashida Adelecki has pulled the team together, Ireland's fastest woman, and has been supporting the team all along the way. So we're nearly there. We've got about 1,300 kilometres to do between today and maybe into tomorrow to try and get there. And really, it's just been a fun focus for all our running groups in the week up to Christmas. For some people in our running groups, it might be their first Christmas in Ireland, and it gives a little bit of extra buzz and excitement to the week. But people have been coming in who've never been sanctuary runners before, just sharing their pictures and photos on social media, donating their kilometres. There's nothing else to donate, so it's not a fundraising initiative. It's just about donating your miles and your smiles and bringing a little bit of visibility to, I suppose, the fact that there are so many people new to our country who we would like to extend a welcome to.
Yeah.
And the President, I suppose it's not an accident that he's involved and happy to be involved, because he's always been very outspoken about us being a nation who is welcoming, and that's at the core of who we are. So it's been so much fun to have the President behind this.
Yeah, he's also a massive sports fan. That's the other aspect of this. You talked briefly at the start about the power of sport to bring people together, and so often on this show we're guilty of it. We end up having long conversations about multi-million-pound footballers, but really, and this time of the year and this initiative and even the Goal Mile are opportunities for us to remember that sport is really about grassroots. We get enjoyment from it, not just from sitting on the couch, but it's supposed to be a participation thing.
Yeah, exactly. The more people involved, the better, for sure. I mean, we see it every week at park runs across the country. We'd run there a lot. They'd be very supportive. We see it at local clubs who welcome runners in, and when they see them wearing the Sanctuary Runner t-shirt. You're right. I know myself from my time in Leavale Athletics or on Irish teams. You make so many friendships and so many connections through sport. They last you a lifetime, and it helps you in ways you might never have expected. That is an absolutely lovely thing. I went for a run and we were on Strava as well, logging up the other night, and I was thinking, I'm going out here now just to get my kilometres for the quest, that was my main motivation. But it wasn't the nicest of evenings, and I bumped into 2 of my fellow coaches from Skerries Athletic Club, where I coach at the moment. And all of a sudden, the run was just so much easier. I flew around the head here, didn't even think about stopping, which I normally would do about every 100 metres. I'm a sprinter, not a long distance runner. It was brilliant. So it is so powerful. And we see it really when all our groups come together at certain times during the year for big runs. The crack is just mighty.
It is amazing, Ailish. It's a great way for people to get to know, people seeking asylum and refuge in this country, because, as you say, like, even my own mum does the park runs and stuff at home in Monaghan, and it's nearly the cup of coffee and tea after the running that's most important. It's the social aspect as well, like.
Oh yeah, the chats. Well, I can guarantee your mum knows Sanctuary Run is so, because they've got a great presence in Monaghan Park Run, actually. Yeah, it is. It is all about the chats, isn't it? Sure, some people like only come along for the chats and the coffee, and that's fantastic too.
It's the thing about it as well is, and we kind of spoken on the show as well about the importance of exercise for mental health and that sort of thing as well. PE often comes up, and the importance of PE, especially for young girls in the country, maybe who are underrepresented in that regard. But just to get out and about, the benefits can't be understated.
Oh, absolutely. And especially I think when the days are shorter, we all need it. You need that endorphin hit. When you come in, you feel so good. And I love seeing that in the photos that come through from Sanctuary Runners. We tend to be on a lot of WhatsApp groups, and on a Saturday morning after a park run, you could literally get a hit of 100 photos. Like, there might be a few struggling runner photos in it, but it's mostly all about the smiles. And yeah, interesting you say about getting the girls and women involved. Like, it was fantastic to be able to have Rashida as our person who launched it and showcasing, I suppose, the success of Irish women in sport this year. I think we've seen that a lot over the last few weeks when it comes to look backs and stuff. The women have been sweeping the boards a little bit, I suppose, when it comes to some of the top honours. And it is so inspiring. That whole, can't see it, can't be it kind of thing is, it's really important.
It's funny, right? Because Can't See, Can't Be was also dreamed up by two women who were like, this isn't right, we need to do something about it. It was a grassroots movement that then literally took over the sports culture because they went about it the right way. And, I really hope that Sanctuary Runner continues to follow in that pathway. If people do want to get involved, Ailish, what's the best and easiest way for them to tune in and show support?
Pop onto our website to sign up for those last few emails at sanctuaryrunners.ie, and you'll find us, Sanctuary Runners Ireland, across all the social channels. So have a little look there, and there's some fun videos and a few more sports stars getting involved over the next 24 hours, and that would be really fun to see. So far David Gillick has been on the team, we've had Claire Lamb, we've had Rashida, and then you'll get to see a lot of our Sanctuary Runners in action as well.
Well, listen, we wish you the very best of luck with it. I hope the testing continue to go negative. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Thank you.
That's Ailís McSweeney there, and it's at Sanctuary Runner on Twitter, or sanctuaryrunners.ie is the website for that one as well. If you want to get in touch with us, you can. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or of course you can also leave a comment on the YouTube stream. Paul Tierney says, many said Salah was done after Chelsea. He just needed time and a manager who gave him a chance and trusted him. Sancho's first year, Solskjaer's manager, enough.
It's a fair point. We sometimes jump to conclusions. We talked about recency bias in the World Cup, but we definitely jump to conclusions about players. Jadon Sancho being one example.
Well,
give him a chance.
He might not be finished as a footballer, but it's going to be very,
he's
very
finished
hard
at United
to get back to anything relevant at Manchester United at this stage.
I saw someone pointing out earlier as well that Solskjaer's signings for United haven't really materialised and worked out. Sancho being one of them. You'd almost look at the record and say, well, yeah, it's a bit concerning. And that's tough for the likes of Ten Hag, who comes in and then has a legacy of players he didn't buy. Now he's all of a sudden brought in the likes of Casemiro and Antony and Martinez and players he has a history with. So, yeah, it's a legacy left at Old Trafford that has been fairly grim since Alex Ferguson left. But, yeah, you feel for him. I don't think Sancho's days at United are numbered necessarily, but certainly over the next 3-4 weeks he has to be back in the team if his career is to continue at Old Trafford. You'd take him at Villa.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
No, he's going to be on Manchester United salary. What are you talking about? No, absolutely not.
In a playing perspective, no.
Instead of who? No. I mean, look, maybe if the manager decides
reaches his potential
that he can get something from this signing, then far be it for me to That doesn't make that much sense, but it doesn't make that much sense at the moment, so I don't think so.
I'd be interested to see if what we said earlier about him missing the penalty at the Euros is still playing on his mind somehow psychologically. I'd be interested to see the likes of Harry Kane, how he reacts this season.
From his own career perspective, he just needs to get a move to somewhere that isn't, and finds a manager who loves him and finds a manager who wants to play him.
Yeah. Look, and there's probably, as Daniel Harris said earlier,
was he good under Tuchel? Or who was the
Dortmund boss at the time?
Was it Nagelsmann?
I can't recall who it was who signed him particularly, but
when he had his good season.
You get from the tone of Ten Hag's comments after the match last night that it was there's something there.
I hadn't thought about the psychological trauma of missing the penalty being the thing that is still hanging over, because I mean you wouldn't have said that when he was sticking it in against Liverpool.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's a while ago. Look, his aunt passed away as well, who was someone who was like a mother figure in his life, and that was, look, things like that can play on people's minds, and things in Marcus Rashford's personal life were playing on his mind that seemed to be diminishing his on-pitch prowess for a while. But so you can't, we don't know the full story of what's going on with Jadon Sancho. There's a reason he's in the Netherlands training with coaches that Ten Hag trusts and knows. There's kind of a bit of footage of him training as well by himself. I wouldn't rule him out just yet.
Lucien Favre was the manager.
Lucien Favre was the manager, right.
Who's now at Nice. Send him to Nice and see who gets on there, but Nice hasn't been great for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Colin's asking me what's my problem. My problem is that this is indicative of bad signings for Manchester United, and the fallacy of sunk costs, I think, is the same thing that would apply to continuing with the goalkeeper. If you really think David De Gea is going to be the goalkeeper to make Manchester United Champions League winners again, then you stick with him. But if you don't just sign him for another season because he's playing okay. You got to move on.
I know, but then
the amount of time that Erik Ten Hag has at Manchester United is really, really limited, because there's a new owner going to come in, and unless Ten Hag is already showing signs of being successful, then he's going to be gone. So rip off the bandage. Gone Sancho at the end of the season. Gone De Gea. Thanks very much, but we don't need to pay you basically $500,000 every time we win a game.
I'd be quite happy to keep De Gea if he takes a pay cut.
He's not going to allow you to do what the team wants to do. He's an excellent shot stopper.
Martin Dubravka played last night and he was fairly crap. He kept a clean sheet, but there was a couple of moments where you're like, what's he doing?
Well, he's just your sub. You're not putting him in the team.
No, I know. Well, he's probably the Carabao / Europa League goalkeeper for United. But I wouldn't be so quick to get rid of David De Gea. Good servant of the club. Maybe necessarily stylistically doesn't fit the mould completely, but stick with David De Gea. David De Gea can amend his game. He's a good footballer.
He can't amend his game. What are you talking? When have you seen any signs of that? When look, there was a period in the first half where during the World Cup, when in the World Cup final, when the ball went back to Emi Martinez, I'm like, just punt it there. I mean, just don't be fanning around with it, right? And he didn't. And then there was another time where he came running out of the goal and tried a scissor kick in the air, and it was like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
That's just Emi.
Well, but my point is, they're roughly the same age. I think Emi's 18 months younger, maybe a bit more. They aren't going to change into suddenly ball playing, drop the shoulder, pinging the ball like Alisson or Ederson. The best goalkeepers in the world are the best goalkeepers in the world, and David De Gea is not close to it. Couldn't even get in the Spain squad. Couldn't get near the squad.
I thought that was wrong though.
Well, but I mean,
he should be in the Spain squad.
Why?
He's one of the best Spanish goalkeepers.
But he's not though. Not if you want to actually be able to play the ball out from the back.
I don't know. Not having
it. Colin is in my ear again saying multiple Player of the Year awards at Manchester United. Exactly. Manchester United. And when did they win the Premier League? When was he Player of the Year in a Premier League team?
He won the Premier League in 2013.
Was he Player of the Year in that team?
I don't know, but he was starting goalkeeper.
He was Player of the Year they won the Premier League.
He was starting goalkeeper.
Van Persie was Player of the Year.
Well, yeah. Hard to argue with that though.
Okay. All right. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish your day. This is our last show of the year, Shane.
Oh, last show of the... No, of course have...
You're here tomorrow, but that's with Adrian, so they don't count.
Doesn't count. We, of course, have shows next week that are...
Who's on the show tomorrow?
Definitely not recorded.
All the star guests. Great. Well done.
Yeah. Tomorrow. Yeah, we've Raj tomorrow, don't we? Ronan O'Gara. I mean, need I say any more? And by the way, we're going to talk darts. I'd say you're sick you're not presenting tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's very sincere. Yeah, you're not enjoying the darts at the moment.
I haven't seen any of it.
None of it. It's on in the office as well. You could stop by the TV there in the afternoon.
It is on in the office.
It is. Yeah. I was myself and Phil enjoying it yesterday.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah,
Cahill's there.
Yeah. Feet up.
There was Irish interest. John O'Shea.
Tea brewed.
Yeah.
All right. This is still a place to work, isn't it? I missed the bit where it was like...
It was research. I'm talking about it now on air. John O'Shea.
I know, you're on the verge of breaking out a few tins.
The Cork
and skinning up.
That's important research. The darts is quality, and when there's Irish interest, you got to watch it. Michael Van Gerwen on the Oki last night as well. The quality level is amazing, Ger.
Seamus Quinn says, well done for highlighting the Sanctuary Runners initiative. It's a fantastic idea. I was totally kind of unfamiliar with it, but at the Griffith Avenue Mile there was like a bunch of runners in their bright blue t-shirts, and it's just very affecting. I think Ailís McSweeney made the point that the founder was like, I don't actually know anybody who's in direct provision, and I guess if we were to challenge ourselves and ask the same question, how many of us actually do know people who are in direct provision and who are experiencing what it is like to be part of what is going to be our generation's version of the mother and baby homes? And what are you doing about it? Now, you should lobby your politicians every time they come to your door and darken it and come begging for votes. You should bring it up. But on a more fundamental human level, you can just run and you can walk. Your mum does the Sanctuary Runners in Monaghan.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic initiative. And like, I'm probably the same as a lot of people. I'm probably in that 74% of people who don't know an asylum seeker, and that's not a good thing whatsoever. And look, direct provision is probably one of the greatest stains in our country at the moment. Doesn't make you feel great, especially around this time of year. But Sanctuary Runners, if that can lead to more of us knowing some of the people in our area who are in that position and situation, and getting to know them by name and getting to know their personalities, and not just seeing them as a statistic or a number, well, that can only be a good thing. So yeah, Sanctuary Runners is a wonderful initiative for sure.
Right, OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish your day. Enjoy your Christmas, Shane.
You too. Happy Christmas, Ger.
Do a good show. Don't be phoning it in tomorrow now.
Nah, not at all.
That bit where you said earlier, all my mates are already started to phone things in. Don't be that person.
No. I've stayed firm to this point.
The audience is relying on us tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
I'll be back tomorrow evening from 7 o'clock with angry producer Mick, with by all accounts a shambles of a crappy quiz, which of course has yet to be recorded.
Of course.
Right. We're back tomorrow. Ronan Lagar's on live to chat about the season so far. Is he not doing his top five? No? Okay, all right. Finn Harps manager Davy Rogers will also be joining us alongside Jack Langston, who is going to be giving us the inside scoop on the darts.
Happy Christmas.
There you go.
The darts.
Right now, some Graham Hunter goodness. He was on last night talking about his experience at the World Cup and the legacy that Messi and Argentina leave behind them. Enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow.
My last football show before Christmas, last football guest of the pre-Christmas year I'm going to talk to is Mr. Graham Hunter. Hello.
Joseph, I'll be your Mary. Hello, and Feliz Navidad to you, baby.
You too. I'm not sure who Jesus is, but we'll press on for the time being.
Yeah, I skipped that one deliberately.
You're in Scotland, from Doha to Scotland.
I am, thank the Lord, yeah, and 95, 96 degree temperature change. But it's good to be home, even though the vagaries of how my beloved Aberdeen playing right now is something that's going to deave me as much as having to be in Qatar for a World Cup, and that's saying something.
Indeed. As an aside, do you come home with a thirst to dive straight back into football and watch more Scottish Premier League, La Liga? Give it to me, I don't want to break.
You do. I sometimes feel a little bit different at the end of a long season, and you hit that, the summer period where you go, particularly if there's qualifying or there are finals in a summer, and it's felt like a draining, like mentally, physically, creatively, but it's felt like a draining summer, and you've put a lot of effort in and stress in, and if you feel you've invested a lot of all your professional skills, by the time the end of a tournament or the end of June comes, you think, lovely, yeah, some sort of break, just to fire the imagination again, just to not to switch off, but to recharge the batteries, to hit the gym, all that kind of rubbish. And it takes me literally about 7 days to go, what am I going to do? When is the football back on again? Can I see friendlies? Is it really true that there are matches in Norway and Finland right now? And at this moment, I didn't feel like that, needing to unplug or anything like that. By the time Spain were knocked out, of the World Cup, I was sick to the back teeth of feeling as if a good project had gone a little bit sour. And yeah, getting back here to see Aberdeen, I didn't manage to see the Celtic game, but did manage to see the Rangers game. And now, right around the corner in Spain are matches on the 29th and the Cup and the Spanish Super Cup. January is going to be, I think, a month like none of us have ever seen before.
Right. That's fine. I haven't even given too much thought to it all, so we'll watch it unfold. So, at every turn for the last 12 years, both in the way this World Cup was bought and, I suppose, sold, by extension, bought and sold, and then all the build-up and all the needless awfulness in the interim, I'm starting to question karma, because Qatar FIFA here landed just about the best World Cup I can remember in a very long time.
Yeah, I bitterly resent the fact that that's true. I don't wish to be repetitive, but I have truths that I am willing to stick to. In that I'd been to Qatar twice before the World Cup, both to work with Xavi, and one of the things he said resonated with me strongly. He wasn't defending, because I wasn't attacking him for taking their money or being an ambassador. I was asking him, how is it possible that he could feel not only satisfied in Qatar, beyond the fact that he was doing good coaching work, but happy. He said, look, working with the Aspire Academy is working with elite people. The minds there, the majority of which were Spanish. But he said, one of the things I'm doing is that outside my coaching and outside the fact that I've got a young, baby in the house and it's a brilliant family time, I'm coming back here for extra. So working with kids from the community in Doha, they don't have to be Qataris. But he said there's a big obesity problem. And it's fantastic that you can run coaching courses. And I develop my coaching skills and my English, whereas people who are not going to come anywhere near professional football can learn the value of teamwork, of coordination, of getting fit, about diet, stuff like that. And that's fine. In general, he felt that developing the quality of the leagues in Qatar was something that was noticeably happening. And that just like the parabola with the MLS, where for a while the MLS went to hire pros who were not looking for a holiday, but they were generally 36, 37, and they went to stroke the ball around rather than to be running around the pitches all over North America, and rather than understanding that they were going to be on 4 or 5 hour flights and training camps all the time, they kind of thought this is a nice cherry on the icing. Qatar was that for a while, and it no longer is that. I don't resent the vast majority of people who live in that country, because the vast majority of them are from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or a rainbow assortment of nations around the world. And I'm perfectly happy that football blesses that country or other parts of the region with all the benefits that we know that it's got, and that they can dream and they can have magic, but not the way the thing was stolen, not the way that the World Cup was bought. It wasn't right that the World Cup was there. And now, as you point out, tournament-wise, you stated it slightly differently than I feel that you saw it as the best tournament you could remember. Fine, okay. I think there's very little doubt that few of us, I never saw the Miracle of Bern, few of us can remember a single better World Cup game than the final. Never mind, is it the best final in our living memory, which it most categorically was.
Yeah.
The fact that those people who brought the World Cup to that country in the manner they did, and then immediately switched it from a summer tournament to a winter tournament, the fact that our professional players who don't just earn you and me a living, but like the dreams of people that are off the ball listeners, all across Europe, no matter who you support, if they were a World Cup player, they're going to be doubly burdened. If they're just a player who's had to compete in the Champions League and had to finish in November 6th instead of December 6th, people are being, footballers and coaches and physios, it doesn't matter who in the industry, are being asked to do more than they should be. They're being pushed, they're being squeezed, they're being treated like, commodities and nothing else, simply so that this rogue World Cup could be shifted from summer to winter. It was disgraceful. And you're right. And yet, Kismet, whatever it was, fate, they got the it'll be called that Qatar final, that final forever, evermore, Joe. It doesn't seem right.
Mm. As a matter of interest, because I mean you're such a football lover and you've seen more than me. What is what would you regard as the best World Cup on a footballing level that you've seen?
Well, because I went there and lived it, I thought 82 was just extraordinary. I spent a month in the country, the way in which an emerging nation, which had been a dictatorship only 6 years before, came to terms with vast influxes of people. As just about everybody who's ever heard me talk knows, my best pal Graham Runcie and I were there courtesy of Alex Ferguson, who was looking after us and giving us tickets and blah, blah, blah. Joe Jordan and Gordon McQueen, once Scotland were knocked out, stayed on in the Costa del Sol with their wives. And because Joe was so linked to AC Milan, Gordon McQueen and Joe Jordan got tickets for the final, which was Italy-West Germany. And they watched it. Italy won. They went out on the lash that night. They were travelling back to the Costa del Sol from Madrid airport. And they were nursing hangovers. And Joe was lying on a bench in the bottom floor of Barajas Airport. And a partially made bit of the first floor gave way when a little toddler who was about 3 was wandering around, came through the barriers, dropped down and literally dropped onto Joe's belly. And that saved his life. That will stay with me. That anecdote from Joe Jordan will stay with me forever. The 82 World Cup for me also provided stuff that's lasted us, since then, as burnishing image of the way that football should be played by Rossi, by that Italy-Brazil match, the way that the disgusting Schumacher attack on Battiston in the semi-final, Tresor's goal in the heat of Seville, plus, Tardelli, and the way in which the Italians stripped West Germany down it. I'll never forget that tournament. I'll never forget Scotland's part in it. You see England's goal in Bilbao against France replayed time and time again. It was flawed if you listen back to what was going on behind the scenes, but that would have been just about my benchmark, apart from having worked at 2010. And when you go cheek by jowl with a squad who win it, that's a life-changing experience. But that's a slightly different question than you asked about the tournament. So for my taste, it was 82 to beat.
On Spain, so because life is life and you can't watch every game, I missed their exit. But here is what every single person who loves football and who I see and I've talked to football has told me about that game. And you can give me the veracity test. The refrain I've had from everybody is Spain, with their 1,000 passes and no shots, descended into a parody of themselves and a parody of tiki-taka, and they deserved what they got. That is like the uncharitable version I've had from people who love their football and watch that game. What was your sense of Spain?
No, it's not uncharitable at all. Just let's discard the word tiki-taka. It's a rubbish word made up by a basketball commentator and it means nothing, and I just don't like it. But before the tournament, when I was talking about them, my 2 watchwords were they lack fight and they lack nastiness, hardness. If you think about every champion across your coverage of sport on off the ball is as wide-ranging as anything I've ever heard in any of the countries I've lived in or worked in or travelled to. And therefore you can compare with boxing or baseball or horse racing or GAA or I don't care what. And there's brutal, hard, sometimes nastiness in most champions and certainly most groups who need to be a champion. And Spain, from the outset, didn't have that yet. It might come, but that was a problem. And so was the bite, that decisive ability to smash an opponent, whether you're doing well, whether you're doing badly, whether they give you a gap or they don't give you a gap. Spain missed that. Now, when you miss that in any sport, when you have a blunt edge, it doesn't matter about all the other things you do brilliantly, that will eventually ruin you.
Yeah.
And therefore, I don't agree with it being a parody of themselves, apart from how a gifted wordsmith might want to describe them. But they weren't doing it to. It's brilliant to make 1,000 passes in a game and not score. They just didn't have the outlet, the movement, and the daring to say, "There's a killer pass." And if you go back and look at 2010 when they won the World Cup, never mind 12 and 8 when they won the Euros, they hit the post and then converted. When a penalty was saved, it didn't slap them in the face. They lost the first game, and they subsequently told stories of of needing brown trousers on the way to the Honduras game, Joe. Honduras. Because they had none of them ever felt so nervous in their life, yet they won it. David Villa was provoked by, I'm sorry, I forget the Honduras player who was at Celtic at the time, and stamped on his foot, and the referee missed it. On and on, and Paraguay got a penalty, and Big Pipi Reina jumps up and says to Iker, I know, I've played this guy, it's going that way, Iker dives that way, blah, blah. Spain had none of those things, neither the destiny will fall our way, or it's our turn, or we know how to take destiny in our own hands and open Morocco up, even though there seems no way through. There seemed no way through against Portugal, there seemed no way through against Paraguay in the games that cost Spain most when they lifted the tournament. And therefore, it magnified the fact that Ansu Fati wasn't yet back on form and Luis Enrique didn't trust him. It was vital that Mikel Oyarzabal, and this might sound like Martian tongue to you, because Mikel Oyarzabal is not regarded as one of Europe's greats. But if you look at his distribution against the European champions in the Nations League semi-final, Italy that had beaten Spain only a couple of months before.
But rightly or wrongly, the 86 team are remembered as an average team in the extreme when it comes to winning World Cups, carried on the back of a left-footed genius. So how will we remember 2022 Argentina?
People will argue fate, kismet. He merited it. I'm not having any of that. That's a load of rubbish. I think we will remember Argentina winning this World Cup as a World Cup that they merited, that they deserved, that they had to fight for, and that they had to build a platform for an aging genius to have his greatest moment. But this wasn't Messi's World Cup. This was Argentina's World Cup, counting in Scaloni, Emi Martinez. This was the ultimate team victory. The difference is the team found a way to make their aging genius lift the trophy.
Yes, I think that's very fair. Yeah. Whereas
OTB AM
with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.